Welcome back to Dragon Time. This week, my special guest is Alt Schwift X.
Hi, and my special guest is Glidus.
Thanks for joining me this week.
We're going to talk about the Dragon Show.
I'm so excited.
Do you want to hear my opening monologue?
Yeah, go for it then.
Here's
go
my
on Jimmy
opening
Fallon
monologue.
with your weekly.
This is the episode when Rhaenyra finally became a Targaryen queen.
Yeah?
Because this is the episode after a season of like, oh, I sure wish I was doing something. She's like, screw the council. Screw my son, screw my doubts. I am the Messiah, and I will sacrifice dozens of innocent people to get dragons, because I believe that I am prophesied and destined to win, and I'm willing to make sacrifices to get the power that I need to triumph, and I will make those sacrifices by fire and blood. That is what Aegon the Conqueror did. That is what Daenerys is in the process of doing in the Game of Thrones books. That is the essence of Targaryenism. And I think that Rhaenyra this episode has finally embraced that. And I want to see her continue with that momentum. And I think that it will be earned. Because if she commits some level of atrocities and embraces violence to some extent, it will be so much more earned after having seen her make every possible attempt to not do that.
Yeah, especially after like seeing this religious imagery and her like proselytizing a bunch of randoms that she's never met before. I also love that it's in the same episode that Daemon's sniffing of his own farts is brought into question.
Yeah, that's true. Like Rhaenyra is becoming more Daemon-y and Daemon is becoming more Rhaenyra-y.
Do you think it was worth it? Do you think the ramp up to get to this point where Rhaenyra is finally dismissing all of that hesitancy, was that weight worth it?
What I think feels jarring is that this moment of embracing fire is happening like 6 episodes after her son was murdered and Rhaenys was killed. How was that not the trigger? Like it just feels like a real bait and switch that at the end of last season we saw Rhaenyra doing her angry Emilia Clarke face and like promising blood and fire, but then proceeded to. I mean, like they did. Rhaenyra did address it because she went out to Shipbreaker Bay and she found Arax's wing and like she underwent a process. Like, it's not like she just ignored the death of Luke. She addressed it and she processed it and she made the conclusion that I'm going to not burn people right now. But it does feel like a real sort of yo-yo of like she's now back into the momentum of I need to fight. So long after the deaths have happened of Luke and Rhaenys.
Yeah, and the trigger for this change in her is like something completely external to her own behavior, being Adam showing up, having claimed a dragon, like proof that other people can, like she hadn't even considered that people who don't have a last name can ride dragons.
I love that they're bringing class into it. I love that they're like, oh, there's people who aren't privileged royal dragon-born lords. There's a whole other 99% of the continent, and maybe we should consider that some of them can contribute. And I really like how Mysaria is the one who brings that to Rhaenyra, because that's not something that Mysaria does in the books.
I really love how she's like, oh, and you think that all the highborn people are beholden to these oaths of allegiance and fealty and honor? That's nonsense, Rhaenyra, and you know it is.
Yeah, because when Rhaenyra says that, like, oh, well, I couldn't possibly ally with someone who isn't noble-born, and Mysaria's like, I'm right here, sister. And it's funny also with Jace. They've done such an interesting thing with Jace.
I love that scene so much. It's not in the books. Like nothing of that sort is in the books. In fact, it's sort of like backwards in the book because it's Jace's idea to sow the dragon seeds, as it were. But here in the show, he's upset that Rhaenyra is doing it because it completely undermines his own claim to the. And I didn't see it coming, but it makes so much sense and it's beautiful.
I think with both Mysaria and Jace, they've done things that aren't in the books, which are so much better than what's in the books, but which also don't contradict what's in the books. So I think the way that they've dealt with like canon and adaptation is shockingly good in those
in those specific
instances.
Cases.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to go on a fun Rhaena rant, a sheep stealer rant at some point, but at least Jace and Mysaria I'm very pleased with.
Yippee.
And yeah, I love the Jace thing because it's consequences for Rhaenyra, and it's also like completely logical, and it's also bringing in the sort of like class bastardy thing And it's this thing of Rhaenyra realizing that she has this bias towards true-born, conventional, noble people, but all of her best allies are bastards and low-born people.
Yeah, Mysaria, Jace, now Adam.
And Rhaenyra
what's
herself...
Corlys done for her, aside from the blockade?
And Rhaenyra herself is like inherently a revolutionary political figure, not by choice, but just by the fact that she was born a woman.
Yeah, Rhaenyra last season was talking about how when she's queen, she'll create a new order. And in this episode, Mysaria is like, well... what are you going to do about these bastards who might be able to ride dragons? Are you going to make the new order or not, you fucking hypocrite? And she's like, fine, we'll do it, I guess.
Yeah, because Rhaenyra can't very well say, oh, well, I'm completely upending the patriarchy and primogeniture, and I'm totally changing how the system works with gender, but we're still excluding bastards and we're still excluding lowborn people. And it's like, well, hang on, isn't this an opportunity to change the world in other ways as well?
Don't you love your son, Rhaenyra?
And some of these questions are questions that are explored further on in the books. So I think that they're doing a lot of smart things to deepen the themes. And yeah, I still feel a little frustrated that it's taken so long for us to get here. Like, wouldn't it be great if some of these questions were being explored a bit more explicitly a bit earlier in this season?
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, I thought all of that stuff was great. And obviously the sewing was like knock your socks off, like Gihar amazing, right?
Like certainly there's a lot of recency bias at play here, but like, is it the coolest thing I've ever seen? Perhaps.
It's up there. I was not expecting this to be an action set piece. Like the way it's described in the books, you sort of imagine it like being like the dragon seeds form an orderly queue.
Yeah, I was picturing a montage when I read that part of the book.
Yeah, because it sounds like it happens over like days or weeks and like people are going to the dragons in different places. Whereas they turn it into like this one catastrophic event where Rhaenyra just like throws the bastards in the Harambe cage and just sees who crawls out again. Yeah. It was great.
Yeah, I loved it. Speaking of deepening things from the book without contradicting anything, Hugh.
Yeah.
Hugh Hammer. I am now ride and die for Kieran Bew.
Yeah, you liked his performance?
I loved his performance. I think he's great. I love what they're doing with Hugh. I see the vision and I approve of it.
Yeah, it's one of those characters where his portrayal in the show is different to what's in the books so far. And you can sort of see how they might connect the dots and it could happen in a really fascinating way. And I like the relationship with his wife, Kat, and how you can see that relationship is like there's tension and, you know, they've lost their daughter and that loss for Hugh of his daughter driving his embrace of fire and this like nice suicidal drive that takes him to claim Vermithor.
When he faces Vermithor, he says, "Come on, I'm ready. I'm ready to die, but also I'm ready for whatever Vermithor gives me. Like I have nothing left to live for. My fate is entirely in the hands of this dragon, this god before me, and Vermithor approves of Hugh's stoil."
I think it like feeds into a theme that is in the books, especially like throughout this whole saga, which is the idea that power is self-destructive. I mean, that's why it's about fire, right? Like fire doesn't burn forever. Fire consumes. We saw Viserys be consumed by power, and that's something we see in Daemon's vision. But also this idea that, you know, Hugh is reaching to grab the fire, and there's something self-destructive about that because he's roaring in the face of this Godzilla dragon. The dragon's roaring at him, and he's roaring back, and he's saying, "Come at me, bro. Eat me, burn me, do whatever. I will seize the power of the fire from the gods." And it's like, holy shit, like it is metal to grab fire. It is metal to ride the dragon. And it will also probably destroy you because dragon riders tend to die young, and that's inherent in seizing power is that it destroys you usually in some sense, whether psychologically or politically or emotionally or whether you get eaten by a lizard. Like that's what power does to you.
Last time we spoke at length about like what Sea Smoke didn't see in Stefan Darkland that he did see in Adam of Hull. And like what does Vermithor see in Hugh? Vermithor is said to be like the most fierce, ferocious. He's called the Bronze Fury. Like this thing is not fucking around. What does he see in Hugh that makes him so excited? That makes him approve?
I like that thread of Rhaenyra going, "Oh, Vermithor is the Bronze Fury. Some say he's even more ferocious than Vhagar," which I feel like is a little bit of hopeful reasoning from Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
Like
there's a lot of circles going on in Rhaenyra's brain right now, I think.
Yeah, no, I like Rhaenyra's going a little bit loopy, which does, I think, parallel with what's going on with Daemon.
Well, I have to become the Queen of Westeros because I have to become the Queen of Westeros.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to kill all these thousands of people because if I don't, then I won't have killed all those thousands of people.
Yeah, she said something like that in a previous episode, didn't she? Like, I have to believe. But on the Rook's Rest episode, she said to Jace that, well, I have to believe that the prophecy is true. Otherwise, how can I justify sending people to their death? And it's like, Rhaenyra, that's not a reason. That's a circular you're using it to just. So she does the same thing here. And it's because last episode she was in one of her darkest moments and she was saying to Mysaria, I don't think I'll win this war. And so now she's just swung like a pendulum. She's flipped into the opposite direction. She's gone from, I think I will lose this war to, oh no, God wants me to win.
Yeah.
What's the Blues Brothers line about we cannot fail, God's on our
mission
side.
from God.
Yeah, that's what Rhaenyra is doing right now.
She has ordained herself as a fucking prophet.
Yeah.
She has decided that she's a messenger of the god. She is a god now. I said it earlier, she's absolutely on the Daemon train of thinking that she's inherently superior to everyone else.
Choo. And which also how could you not? Because she's a dragon rider and everything she's experienced. But you know what? How could Hugh not? How could Ulf not?
Oh.
How could Adam not? Now that they taste that power, won't they feel the same?
Hugh absolutely must believe that he is the greatest person alive.
And I wonder what his mother Sarah told him. I mean, introducing that relationship.
Is his mother necessarily... We'll get into that later.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But the other thing that is great is that Rhaenyra declares herself Jesus. She's starting to believe that she's the Messiah. She's saying that she thinks that she's the prince that was promised, I think. I mean, Viserys at least was saying that Rhaenyra is the princess that was promised in season 1. But as soon as Rhaenyra starts thinking of herself as a messiah, the Dragon Keepers, who are the priests of this Valyrian cult-like religious organization, go against her. Immediately there's a schism. Immediately there's a Protestantism to her Catholicism or whatever, because she has this radical interpretation of her religion, and she's letting all these bastards and these quote unquote mongrels to ride dragons, whereas the Dragon Keepers, who have the more conventional, old school traditional notion of what a dragon rider is,
view of who's allowed to ride a dragon.
So like Jesus, she's the upstart who is got this cool new religious perspective that other people don't necessarily embrace.
Unlike Jesus, several dozen people are burnt the day she decides it.
Well, that's not mentioned in the main Gospels, but some of the Apocrypha mentions
I see.
all those people who Jesus burned. No, I think I love it when they bring ideology into a story that is not just set dressing, but which is actually a motivation for characters' actions.
It's if you can imagine that plot point being, the deciding you're the Messiah in the face of all the other religious knowledge that's come before you. If you imagine that plot point transplanted onto Daenerys in season 8, it makes so much more sense.
Yeah, you're right. That's one of the ingredients that was missing from the soup in Game of Thrones season 8 was that
Daenerys legitimately believing that she's the Messiah.
Yeah, she did vaguely say that it's her destiny to take the throne a few times, but nothing more specific than that. And she didn't talk about her Valyrian. And also the weird racism of it. I loved Jace calling the bastards mongrels, which is so twisted on so many levels.
Because that's clearly how he views himself.
Yes, he's a self-hating bastard who needs to act like someone who hates other bastards. He needs to punch down as a. He's it's like a crabs in the bucket thing, he has to act like he's better than other people because he fears that deep down he is the same as those other people.
At the same time, crabs in a bucket, Bartimos Celtigar is also really against this.
He's the angriest crab in the bucket for sure.
He's the king crab.
And he's the pettiest.
He's king of the bucket.
Yeah. Well, what's great about this is that it cuts to the heart of what this feudal order is, which is made up rules and conventions and appearances. It's only the fact that people believe that only a proper Targaryen lord can ride a dragon, and as soon as that belief is shattered, as soon as that illusion is shattered,
Adam showing up on Sea Smoke,
by Adam, by Ulf, by Hugh, then it's well, why should anyone listen to the Targaryens?
Yeah. But then when you upend those conventions, people get angry because like their beliefs, their lives are defined by it. And that's what we see from the Dragon Keepers from Jace in this episode when Rhaenyra decides that the conventions that define our lives actually are meaningless.
Yeah, which is great if you have something to gain, but if you're someone like Bartimaeus Skeltergard, you only have things to lose.
Yeah.
If those conventions are questioned, he only has things to lose. All he's got is his petty little, well, I'm Valyrian and therefore I'm better than everyone else, even though my house isn't very powerful. So of course Bartimaeus is the guy who is like trying to defend those conventions. So anyway, the start of the episode.
Yeah, a little beach standoff.
Yeah, this
Ryan
looks fun.
Condal described it as like a Sergio Leone moment.
What kind of, is that a strand? What are they standing on? There's water on both sides.
Is it a sandbar?
Is it what? I don't know what it is. It looks cool.
It's a Welsh beach.
One of the things I like about this scene is that Cyrax and Seasmoke are having
Their
more
own
of a conversation.
Hi, how are you going? It's been a while.
I mean, like, we saw Seasmoke flying over Dragonstone this season, and we also saw Seasmoke flying around Driftmark. Do you think Seasmoke came into the Dragon Caverns in Dragonstone and like was fed and watered, or was he just?
Well, he was there in like last episode when Stefan Darkland tried to claim him.
Yeah, true.
So he must have been around.
And do the Dragon Keepers just allow the dragons to be outside cats if they want?
How are you going to stop it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's no door
it's
on the cave.
You can't make your cat an inside cat if it can break anything. If it can like melt glass with its fucking breath.
I want a short film that's just like a day in the life of the Dragon Keepers. Like, what are their daily tasks?
That'd be great, yeah.
And I want to see that break down now that the Dragon Keepers seem to be rejecting Rhaenyra. Like, what's going to go wrong now that they no longer...
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I thought it was funny that Silverwing had a saddle on already for Ulf to get onto. It's like, do they just leave the saddle? Like, who's responsible for the saddles? Surely the Dragon Keepers are dealing with that.
Well, did Seasmoke have a saddle when he decided to claim Adam? I think he did.
Yeah, it's funny that the saddles are just always there. How do they scratch their backs when they've got a saddle on?
It's like a snail shell. They grow the saddle.
Oh, I see.
But by the time of Drogon, it had been like it evolved out of them as a vestigial trait.
Evolution's a marvelous thing.
Yeah.
Are there Dragon Keepers at the Dragon Pit in King's Landing still?
That's a good question, and I don't think we know one way or the other. Oh no, there were, because did we see them when Aegon mounted Sunfire in episode 4?
Oh yeah, we might have.
I'll put it up on screen. That's your answer. I realize now that not everyone is watching. Some of you are just listening. So yes, there are Dragon Keepers in King's Landing. We did see them in episode 4. I was right. Everyone clap.
You would think that there would be, because otherwise who's feeding Dreamfire and...
Yeah.
Well, just Dreamfire.
Yeah, at this point.
Because Vhagar's hanging out in the backyard.
She's too big for the Dragon Pit.
And
Sunfire's slowly dying at Rook's Rest, and Tessarion's not there yet.
I'm actually a bit livid that they didn't mention Sunfire at the Green Council scene with Aemond. Like, why isn't Aemond saying, hey, so my brother's dragon, is it alive? Like, last we heard, Kristen said, oh, Sunfire was long in the dying, which makes it sound like Sunfire might be dead. Seems like that's a really important fact to clarify. They did talk about Tessarion last week.
And they talked about her this week.
So how are they not talking about bloody Sunfire?
Well, because a dying dragon is a lot less important than a living one.
Well, whether it dies or not is crucial. And it's currently in Rook's Rest, which is like contested territory with Lord Mooten marching on it. Which, incidentally, we saw a Mooten with Daemon and Oscar at Harrenhal. Didn't Rhaenyra order the Mootens to Rook's Rest?
You don't have to send your whole fucking family with the army.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Look at you and your little nitpicks. That one wasn't a nit. That was just a weird bit of dandruff in the hair.
Well, now we've found out. Aren't we glad we investigated the nit? Because if it was a nit, you'd best believe.
We'd be chomping away on it.
Oh, yeah.
Like the sociable little chimps we are.
That's what you do with nits.
Yeah, they eat them.
I was just going to pick them. I didn't know you ate them as well. But free protein, I guess.
Yeah.
So Rhaenyra's like, who the hell is this guy and what's he doing on my ex-husband's dragon?
Excuse me, who the fuck? Who do you think you are? And Seasmoke's like, I found one, Rhaenyra. Look, doesn't he look like Laenor?
And I love how Adam's like, I don't know either. Like Adam definitely Adam could have played this a completely different way. Adam could have said, I am a dragon lord. I am son of Lord Corlys Velaryon. I have claimed my rightful dragon, the dragon of my brother, Laenor Velaryon. I am connected to you by wedding, by your marriage to Laenor. I'm your good brother. I'm a dragon lord. And if you treat me right, I might just make an alliance with you.
If you make me the Lord of fucking Storm's End or whatever, I'll help you win this war.
And if you give Alan as much goat stew as he can eat, and then maybe I'll consider
if you give me 7 new belts, I will join your war. Because we see Adam wearing a shit ton of belts at all times.
Yeah, he knows what he likes. Because it's interesting that, you know, this season so far, Alan has been the humble one and Adam has been the ambitious one.
Right.
And yet Adam is very humble in this scene.
Well, he's never like been face to face with a monarch before. And like even Corlys Velaryon has like, they barely even acknowledge that he exists.
And he also is facing a dragon. And also he doesn't know how to drive his dragon. So like it would be very silly for him to pick any kind of fight in this circumstance.
So can you take me to school, please? I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's like he's just pulled up in a monster truck and he's like, can you please give me driving lessons, you know? Like,
I would be threatening you, but I really have no legs to stand on.
He's got this like badass like Mad Max like monster truck like guitar, super flame spurting like monster truck, and he's like, which pedal is the go button? Can you show? I can't reach the pedals.
I can't change the radio station and it's stuck on fucking weird Euro techno.
How do I turn my indicators off?
He's confused because the windshield wipers are on the wrong side of the steering wheel.
What's a clutch? So yeah, it's fun, and I really like that they keep saying this episode that like Adam wants to learn how to ride a dragon. He needs the dragon lore, which I feel like they're emphasizing that because we just had the dragon keepers walk out. So it's like
when we see Adam in action, is he gonna know what he's doing?
Yeah, and we also this episode saw Aemond trying to steer Vhagar, going and then saying, "Turn around, Vhagar," and Vhagar goes, "No."
Yeah, you can see her in that shot where they're turning around. Like her neck is like still leering towards dragons, and she's like, "No, I want to go that way."
So it's like if Aemond still can't control Vhagar, how is Adam and Ulf and Hugh going to learn to control their dragons?
I think
without
Hugh
the dragon
specifically,
keepers?
like Vermithor, if he is as ferocious as Vhagar, and Hugh's brand new to all of this, how much control is he going to have?
Yeah, like
but maybe Vermithor just really likes you. Who knows?
When these dragons accept these riders, are the dragons thinking, here's someone who I wish to obey their commands forever? Or are they thinking, here's someone who I can use to justify the things I want to do? Here's someone who will go along with what I want to do?
Here's a reason to leave the cave.
Yeah. But I mean, like when Vermithor has Hugh roaring at him, is Vermithor like, yeah, this guy's angry enough to go along with the war crimes that I want to do?
Yeah.
You know? The thing about Vermithor being super fierce, though, in the lore, as far as I'm aware, in the lore of the books, the only battle that Vermithor has ever been in was the Fourth Dornish War, in which he burned some boats in a day. In like hours, he burned a bunch of boats. But aside from that, he's never been in an actual fight.
Yeah, House of the Dragon seems to be adding a lot more conflict, but also saying that there wasn't any conflict simultaneously.
It's a little bit of a contradiction that they're like, Joe's reign and Viserys' reign was peaceful, and yet Rhaenys is like an experienced warrior. It's like, huh? I think the answer is the Stepstones. Like
for Rhaenys, yeah.
Yeah.
And for Vermithor, maybe it's just a case of, he's been around long enough, he's done enough shit, like just around. He sometimes sails. He burns the occasional ship. I don't know.
He's a lizard. What shit can he do? He hasn't got thumbs. Like dragons don't. Here's my thumb feeling.
Some theory.
So the reason why humans rule the earth is because we have thumbs.
That's quite the assertion.
Because thumbs are the
I know
ultimate...
quite a few octopuses who would refute that claim.
Well, an octopus has never been president because humans have thumbs that they can use to make tools, that they can use to make more sophisticated tools. Humans can create things through the power of thumbs.
Yeah, but dragons have fire coming out of their mouths.
And you can't make tools with fire.
Of course you can. That's what smithing is.
Right, don't at me. But you can't create tools with fire unless you also have thumbs.
Right.
Fire and thumbs are a powerful combination.
There are birds that create tools. There are thumbless creatures who create tools.
What tools do birds create?
They like
sticks.
Yeah, they form sticks in certain ways to perform certain tasks. It's incredibly cool. Yeah. And there's one fish that like finds it's not making a tool, it's using a tool that it finds to like smash things open with a rock. Anyway.
That's cool. Dolphins, I read, put sea sponges on their noses to protect their noses while they're digging around to look for things on the sea floor, I read. I bet Grey Ghost probably does the same thing.
Yeah?
Because Grey Ghost in the books likes to eat fish out of the sea around Dragonstone.
He finds SpongeBob down there to cover his nose up?
Yeah, probably. So it was lore related.
Ah, very good.
So, Rhaenyra...
On to the second line of dialogue.
Yes. Rhaenyra was in the absolute depths of despair going like, I might die. And now the gods have just sent her a dragon rider riding on her ex-husband's dragon.
By the way, does she think Laenor's dead? Like, we bring this up every episode.
We bring it up every episode because every episode I cannot believe they haven't mentioned Laenor.
I think that we're supposed to know that Rhaenyra thinks Laenor is dead because of that scene in episode 3, is it? Where Sea Smoke's flying around and Mysaria says maybe he's lonely. I think that's supposed to tell us that Laenor is dead. Because why would Rhaenyra have Stefan Darkland try to claim Sea Smoke if she thinks Laenor is still alive?
Yeah, they could have done that scene with Vermithor or Silverwing or bloody Cannibal. If they, like, Stefan could have tried to claim any of the dragons, but they chose Sea Smoke, which is the one that makes the least sense if Rhaenyra thinks Laenor is alive.
Yeah, but like there's no one she can talk to about that because Daemon's in Harrenhal. I said Daemon again. You keep infecting me.
Well, we've actually switched. I officially say Daemon now.
Really?
I've switched. So now you have to say Daemon. That's the curse.
Oh, no. Yeah, like who's she going to talk about that with?
With fucking Jace, because this episode...
Jace thinks that Laenor is dead. Jace wasn't in on that plan.
This episode... They were talking in the most direct way that they ever have about
Harwin,
Jace's paternity. And this was the perfect opportunity to talk about Laenor since they were talking about Harwin and since they were talking about his fathers. How could like Jace could have like brought that up. Jace could have mentioned Laenor and then Rhaenyra could have said, they could have explored Laenor's status through that scene.
I think that makes that scene way hairier.
Well, maybe not that particular scene, but they need a scene. I mean, they were talking...
It's got to be Corlys. She's got to talk about with Corlys.
Because Corlys thinks that his queen killed his son, which is the most insane thing to not mention for this entire season.
Yeah, I think it should have been brought up like when or around when Rhaenyra made Corlys her hand.
And around the death of bloody Rhaenys.
Yeah.
In the books, Corlys is furious at Rhaenyra and blames Rhaenyra for the death of Rhaenys. It's not even mentioned in the show.
Imagine if at that point Rhaenyra was like, so I'm really sorry that my war got your wife killed. Anyway, your son might still be alive. Do you want to be my hand?
Yeah, well, I mean, then they could do this interesting thing of, they could have an actual conversation. So Corlys has this really messed up relationship with his bastard sons, Adam and Alan, which could be compared and contrasted to his complicated relationship to his son, Laenor. Because Corlys never quite accepted Laenor, never quite accepted that Laenor was gay.
Yeah.
We never really saw them having a healthy relationship.
He denied it, is all that we ever knew about that.
Just as we never see him having a particularly comfortable relationship with his bastard sons, Alan and Adam. And so, so in the aftermath of the death of Rhaenys, wouldn't that be a great time to explore those relationships with Rhaenyra as a way of cementing the connection and the trust between Corlys and Rhaenyra before Corlys becomes her hand? Like, Corlys could have, like, when Rhaenyra asked him to be hand, Corlys could have stormed up to Rhaenyra and, like in the books, gotten angry about the death of Rhaenys, and they could have transitioned to talking about Laenor, talking about Alan, talking about Adam, and that could kick off Corlys readjusting his relationship with Alan and Adam.
I agree.
We're pretty good at this fan fiction.
Yeah, but it is fan fiction, and we don't yet know where they're going with all of that. Although I think it would be better served if it had already happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like less charitable in some ways about this season because like season 1 was so busy. Season 1 was a breakneck pace with all the time skips and like a lot was happening all the time. Whereas a lot of scenes in this season I feel like are like repeats of previous scenes in the same season. So the idea of like, oh, you couldn't fit in XYZ is like, well, maybe they could have. I feel like there was room for certain things to be explored more.
Yeah. And maybe it is was this season always supposed to be 8 episodes?
No, there was a point when it was meant to be 10 episodes and then it got changed to 8 episodes. And I've seen varying reports on who demanded that, but it didn't seem to be the showrunner's idea to go down to 8 episodes.
A lot easier for me to blame the studio.
And there was also the writers' strikes and the actors' strikes. And
this season had a lot going against it, by the way.
Yeah. I think
that's not to excuse anything you might dislike about it, but it's just it's worthwhile context to remember.
It bugs me online when like you speculate on the reason why something might have happened, and then people on Twitter say, "Why are you justifying this? Why are you saying that it's okay?" And it's like, no,
I'm just thinking.
Talking about a cause, a possible cause, is not the same as a justification. Like, I'm not saying the thing is okay. I'm saying the thing was caused.
Yeah.
Those are two different
There's a reason
things.
for it. I don't like the reason. I don't agree with the reason.
Yeah.
But that's what I think happened.
Very weird
people
thinking,
conflate explanation and excuse.
But that's what I get for reading Twitter. No one should read Twitter.
Yeah, get off Twitter, man.
Get off Twitter. Can we talk about Alicent touching grass? While we're talking about Twitter, let's talk about Alicent logging off of Twitter and going and touching grass and swimming in the ocean.
We should all aim to emulate Alicent today.
Yeah, I found that it was...
Contemplate life. Go look at a bird in the sky while you're swimming through. Like, have beautiful hair.
Yeah.
Like, she's just goals today, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a perfect counterpoint to the apocalyptic fire and blood that Rhaenyra is doing. Like, for a lot of this
funny thing is, if you go online, people hate that scene. People hate what Alicent did this episode.
It was the most beautiful part. It healed my soul just as the fire and blood, like...
destroyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? So most of this season... Alicent has been like the villain in the hypocritical, lying, murdering Greens team, whereas Rhaenyra has been I just want to save everybody and not do a war. But this episode they've flipped, where Rhaenyra is the one getting dozens of civilians lit on fire
for her
military advantage,
to claim another nuclear bomb or two.
Whereas Alicent is like, I'm just going to be in the woods bothering nobody. So like I like that sort of reversal of things. And I like how everything that's happening is a consequence of the last 2 seasons of everything else happening. Like,
yeah.
I think that like there was a fair bit of suicidal ideation in this episode because,
the
showrunner Ryan Condal at least was talking about Alicent thinking about suicide when she's swimming around in the lake. And also Hugh was like yelling at Vermithor to kill him. And, Aegon is on death's door and there's a lot of like facing death and all of this is happening like after everyone's crossed the precipice and it's too late to back away from this war. And it's like, I think people are contemplating death, the deaths that they have, the people they've lost. I mean, Daemon is literally being haunted by ghosts of the dead this episode.
And he's just created a new one.
Yeah, so everyone's facing death.
Oh, shit. Do you think we're going to see Willem Blackwood next episode?
Oh, that would be so cool.
Like, just interrogating Daemon.
Oh, I would love that so much. And it would make... I mean, because he's a Blackwood who worships the old gods.
And he was killed before a weirwood for obeying a command from his king.
Yeah. So, and I do have complaints about the Willem Blackwood thing because it's like... I felt like they were trying to tell us that Daemon killing Willem was like the payoff to this season of introspection, as though killing Willem was like this big consequential choice that like means that Daemon has changed. But it's like, Willem means nothing to Daemon.
I disagree with that interpretation. I don't think that was supposed to be the big payoff because the scene with Viserys offering the crown and saying, is this what you want? Like that happens after he kills Willem. I think if it was supposed to be the payoff, it would have happened beforehand.
I think that's a good point. So I guess the payoff has to come next episode.
Yeah, and Daemon is, I mean, if we are allowed to talk about the episode trailers, should we talk about the episode? By the way, we're going to do a spoiler zone after the season ends. So that will happen. hold your horses. There's a lot of speculation, things we're talking around through these videos that we're not quite like able to dig into without divulging spoilers. So we'll be doing our own separate thing after the season for that.
I know that there are some people who are annoyed whenever we sound like we're tiptoeing around spoilers, but I know that there's also people who would be annoyed if we did say the spoilers. So you can't please everyone. But I think that generally no spoilers is the right approach. But yeah, we will do a spoiler zone talk because there's a lot to say.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot to say.
It turns out we actually have a lot of thoughts about this show.
Really? Well, we'll have to do some kind of podcast discuss it at some point.
I don't know if I can work that into my schedule.
So, do you ever talk so much dragon that you don't have time to talk about the dragon you want to talk about?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have talked about Silverwing way too little so far.
It's true. But we'll get to Willem, won't we? I suppose. Yeah. So. The gods give Rhaenyra a thing. Isn't it funny that
the gods deliver Rhaenyra new power at the same time that Alicent has been stripped of all of hers?
Yeah. I think that Alicent and Rhaenyra and Daemon's journeys parallel each other in some really sort of funny, fascinating ways. I feel like a lot of what's going on with Rhaenyra, like a lot of the reason why Rhaenyra hasn't done much this season is that she's trying really hard to not be Daemon. Like whenever she makes a decision, she's like, what would Daemon do? And I'll do the opposite.
Yep.
Because she has so viscerally experienced the pain of having Daemon.
And now Mysaria, the anti-Daemon, is on her shoulder, whispering in her ear.
Yeah. Rhaenyra and Mysaria are the two people who are most determined to not be Daemon. So, of course, she's been like really hesitant to be impulsive and be violent.
But at the same time, she's picking up swords and pashing chicks, and now she's decided that she's the Messiah and she's commanding small folk to die for a dragon god.
Yeah.
At the same time that Daemon is sacrificing a dude to the old gods. Rhaenyra is sacrificing people to the Valyrian gods, dragons.
Yeah, a lot of blood sacrifice made this episode. And it is a delicious payoff when Vhagar and Aemond run away in the face of her and her dragons.
There's fear for the first time ever. Aemond thought he was special for being able to claim Vhagar, like just sneaking up on Vhagar and taking her for a joyride. And then some random drunk guy from the streets of Flea Bottom just shows up on Silverwing.
So something about the fact...
It undermines him the same way that Jace has been undermined.
Something about the fact that it's Dragonstone as well. Like, Dragonstone is the ancestral seat of House Targaryen. It's the volcano island. It's where dragons seem to thrive the best. Like, Aemond is this bloody half Hightower who's grown up in King's Landing. And it's like, does he really have the Targaryen grit?
His parents aren't even related.
Yeah, you know? So something about he flew to Dragon Island and he was upset to find dragons, you know? It's like, you know, fuck around and find out.
I love that Rhaenyra asks Adam what his parentage is before she asks what his name is.
Yeah.
Like, that's way more important. She's like, oh, how the hell did you get a dragon?
Yeah,
just looking at him.
Rhaenyra has spent like sleepless nights on Ancestry.com trying to figure out whether Stefan Darklyn or Barnabas Celtigar are more likely to have Targaryen blood. Like, I think all of that stuff is on her mind. But yeah, it is this sort of dehumanizing thing to question his parentage before his name, because it's like seeing him as an asset and judging him by his blood rather than judging him by his actions.
Well, that's the entire concept of feudalism before you, isn't it?
Yeah. It outlines the
Your parentage is all that matters, way more than who you are.
So why does Adam say that his father is no one of consequence?
I guess because he wants to be self-made. He doesn't want to say, and Corlys Velaryon is my father, ladies and gentlemen. Like, and so you have to take me seriously in the same way that Corlys thinks of himself as self-made.
So it's funny that he's being Corlys-like when he refuses to acknowledge Corlys, just as Corlys refuses to acknowledge him. Men.
Ain't it fun?
Oh boy. Yeah, he wants to prove himself individually, and also just like he feels pained by the rejection. But ironically, like if he stood up and said, "I'm Corlys' son, I'm Laenor's brother," Rhaenyra would be a lot more inclined to trust him.
Yeah,
and if Adam had said that, then maybe Rhaenyra wouldn't have gone into the bastard plan. Because one of the messed up things about this episode is that Jace was saying, "Mum, please don't give dragons to bastards or else I might not be able to hold on to the throne after you." And Rhaenyra was like, no, I'm doing it anyway.
That's so much like forward thinking from Jace, by the way. Like, it's incredible how that's on his mind.
Well, I mean, what's great about it is that it's a political problem, but it's also a personal problem because of his insecurities. And it's so Jon Snow. It's so Jon Snow. Rhaenyra didn't have to give dragons to bastards. She could have kept on digging around on Ancestry.com and tried some more noble people and tried giving them dragons before doing the bastards thing, you know? Like she could have tried to comply with Jace's wishes, and she could have found some other families who could have ridden dragons. I would have tried to give Corlys a dragon, by the way.
Yeah.
The fact that Adam can ride a dragon suggests that the Velaryons may have a drop of dragon blood. It's worth trying.
Well,
Corlys.
the question of Adam and Alan's mother comes up in this episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, do they have Targaryen blood, or is it really just a random fucking thing? Is it just because Sea Smoke likes Adam?
Yeah. I do like the idea that at the end of the day, a dragon could just go like, well,
I like you.
Yeah, personally, I'm not like a blood theorist, genetic supremacist. No, I just like the cut of this guy's jib, you know? And he's my old rider's brother, so why not? Like, the exceptions are what make the rules interesting. Rhaenyra is interesting because, like, she believes that she's Jesus, but she also shows a great deal of vulnerability this episode. Like, she says, oh, I feared it was impossible for someone to claim a dragon. And, like, she talks about worrying about all the rules are uncertain to her, like, in her speech to the dragon seeds. Like, she really sort of, shows her vulnerability and her ignorance to people, which is charming, but it's also, like, these are people who you are going to have to have authority over while they are riding nukes, which might be a hard thing to do.
It's disarming in both senses of the word.
Yeah, it's very human, but it's like, how do you be a human and be a ruler at the same time, which is one of the central questions of this story.
No way.
And like Adam's like, I can try to get my dragon there.
I think I can fly it. Where is Dragonstone? No, he's a shipwright. He knows where Dragonstone is.
So Alicent lays out...
This is really funny how she's trying to like Goss get a D&M going with Orwyle, and he's like, yep. The scar will be visible.
Yeah, Orwyle is the consummate professional who's just trying to get his job without getting his head cut open. I mean, remember that, like, in the books, you know, it's Orwyle who gets sent to Dragonstone, and Rhaenyra rips off Orwyle's maester's chain and, like, threatens to kill him, and he pisses himself in fear.
And also remember that a number of Grand Maesters have been, like, murdered by the king back in Maegor's time.
Yeah, true. Like, I kind of wish they included Orwyle being threatened by Rhaenyra in season 1, because I feel like that would give context to Orwyle's kind of like careful, cowardly neutrality in this season. But yeah, I love how Alicent's like laying out her deepest fears and insecurities, and Orwyle's like, yep, I'll put a little antibiotics and remember to change the bandage after 3 weeks.
Yep, you can drink just a little bit of the rubbing alcohol.
It's also
Don't do that, by the way. It's a bad idea.
It's also the ethanol? It makes you blind, doesn't it?
It's not food grade.
I think it's interesting that the one thing Orwyle says is you'll have a scar, but it'll be easily hidden.
Yeah.
As though that's like the main concern.
Is her appearance.
Like, yeah. Which like feeds into that whole BS that Alicent has had to deal with in terms of like being valued mostly for her body and her ability to produce children and not for her ability to make political decisions.
It's interesting how Aemon's scar makes him like powerful and intimidating, that Alicent's scar is seen as a vulnerable point on her body.
Yeah. Yeah, on like a man, a scar might be seen as experience and like proof of strength, whereas a scar on a woman in this world is seen as a weakness and a bad thing.
A mark of a bad day or something. And like that's nothing to say of Myssaria's scars.
Yeah. I like how they're matching scars. It's like matching like bestie tattoos on Alicent and Rhaenyra now.
You know you could have just given each other necklaces, right?
Honestly, that would have solved a lot of problems.
Hey, it's Laris.
As soon as I saw the rat, I was like, Joe Magician's going to be thrilled. I'm so happy for Joe Magician now.
He must be having the time of his life.
Because the theory that Laris sees through the eyes of rats as a green seer.
I mean, so that's like the deep down, the if you want to like crack open the nut and really look into what's going on there theoretically. But like on the surface, it's, you know, unclean. As Alicent says, this place isn't clean. I need to leave.
No, there's no thematic meanings. There's only deep magic lore, Glidus.
It is interesting how we have to sort of juggle talking about this on so many different dimensions. There's the narrative sense, the thematic sense, the deep lore theory, magic, long night. Euron will claim red rain so that he's a magic evil wizard with dark armor and a red lightsaber like Darth Vader.
Yes.
There's just so many ways we can talk about this, and that's why, I mean, this show and Game of Thrones sustained such a massive ecosystem of content creators.
Yeah. No, that's what is special about these shows, is that they can be enjoyed on lots of different levels, sometimes simultaneously.
Or unenjoyed on many different levels.
Yeah. I think that's part of, like, some people hate watch this show maybe because, it can be, I like this show on some of the levels and dislike parts of it on other levels simultaneously.
Me too.
Like I can appreciate aspects at the same time that I don't like certain other aspects at the same time. It's kind of like you sort of go cross-eyed trying to have those different perspectives at the same time.
Well,
sometimes.
I think you're a paid shill.
Yes, that's right. I'm a paid shill. I cut my check from HBO Warner
David
Max.
Zaslav sent me $3 in the mail.
I think we're gonna have to send checks to David Zaslav. Isn't he trying to liquidate the company, selling off chunks of it?
We're gonna have to start a grassroots movement to keep HBO alive.
Yeah, we're gonna have to start a crowdfunding campaign for HOTD Season 3.
I think that's a theory. I don't think that's like we're theorizing about real life again, aren't we? We're doing actual conspiracy theories. But maybe that's happening.
Well, look, if HBO can't afford to keep Westworld, how are they going to afford to send us checks? Is all I'm saying. If they can't pay Evan Rachel Wood, I don't think we're on their payroll. Someone please pay Evan Rachel Wood. It's Ricky Thorne.
He's got like 3 entire lines in this episode. Good for him.
Where's he been for the previous 16 episodes?
Well, he wasn't. Was he on the Kingsguard from the beginning? I don't think he was.
Well, he hasn't been, like, he's been seen in the background this season sometimes.
Yeah.
He wasn't, like, cast in season 1. I guess canonically he might have been in the Kingsguard. Because, like, he's an older guy. How long, did he know Vizzy T? Like, how long's he been around?
I'm going to say he was added to the Kingsguard between the second time skip, between episode 7 and episode 8.
So Allison says that, hey, Ricky, we're going camping. Do you think that Ricky is like not into this because it's kind of awkward and he doesn't want to have to build a tent for a queen? Or do you think he's happy to get out of the castle that could be obliterated by dragons at any moment?
I think he's enjoying this and unenjoying this on different levels.
Ah.
Yeah.
Meta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, King Aegon's Kingsguard is down to 4 now, isn't it? No, 3 because Arik died as well.
Yeah, no, this has been a rough season for Kingsguard. There's been a lot of Kingsguard.
I mean, they're still beating Rhaenyra's Queensguard.
Do you think that Rhaenyra should add Ulf, Hugh, and Adam to her Kingsguard?
That would be an interesting way to safeguard the, like, dragon claiming blood ? Going forward.
Because if they're all sworn to chastity and sworn to hold no lands and stuff, then they are removed as a political threat to Rhaenyra.
At the same time, I'm Hugh. I have a wife, actually, already. And also, I own the coolest dragon on the planet. You're not going to tell me what to do, actually.
I'm pretty sure that there have been Kingsguard who have had wives, but who have sent their wives to a nunnery to join the faith so that they can join the Kingsguard.
Would that make Kat happy?
I don't think so.
I don't think Kat's very happy as is.
Yeah, well, the death of her daughter might have something to do with that.
I don't think we discussed that, by the way, in episode 5. Like, their daughter appeared to die on screen, but we didn't really discuss it.
On screen?
I don't know. She looked very, like, pale, dying deathly, perhaps even dying in front of us in that scene at the gates.
Yeah, well, she wasn't looking well, but I didn't interpret that as her death.
But she's dead now.
She is apparently dead. R.I.P. Do you think she walked into the dog?
How many minds can this one dog hold?
It's got a capacious cranium.
You think Leon Estemont's in there too?
Just having a conversation with Kat's daughter.
Because that's what's happening in this scene is Leon Estemont died in the riot and Martin Rain and Red Ned Waters are being sent to the wall because of their part in escalating the riot.
This is exactly the sort of stuff that happens in the books, is that every like random character has some shit happen to them that actually fits into the politics and the like minutiae of the plot lines of the
and
schemers.
Then you'll see them show up at the wall in the next book and you're like, oh yeah, them.
Yeah,
it's great. I love it when George does that. It's my favorite fucking thing.
Yeah, I don't know how George does it, but the number of minor characters who have their own little arcs entirely in the background of the story is pretty amazing. And
Game of Thrones had like 2.
That's why there's videos about like Tyrek Lannister and Missandei Hayford and, you know, all of the various Night's Watch blokes and all their backgrounds. But yeah, no, I really like that. So like Leon cut off a common born person's hand in the riot last episode. And so the Greens have decided to blame Leon and Martin and Red Ned for causing the entire riot. When the riot, like, if it was anyone's fault, it was Larys's fault, right? Because the riot was sparked by Rhaenyra and Mysaria and Alinda and Diana and Ulf's whispers, which it is Larys's job to stop.
Right, but so Larys either knowingly or unknowingly allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
But Rhaenyra did it.
Well, yeah. But I mean, I get the main thing is that it wasn't really Martin and Ned's fault, but they're using them as a scapegoat.
Yeah.
But they are also removing
incompetent,
Aegon's
useless
friends.
lickspittles, yeah.
Aegon's friends and protectors are being removed. And Aemond can now replace them with people who are loyal to him, who will not protect Aegon, but who will protect Aemond. Remember in the previous episode when Aemond said, our Kingsguard.
Yeah.
Not your Kingsguard, Aegon, our Kingsguard. And so by removing Aegon's Kingsguard buddies, Aemond can install his own people, which is exactly the sort of crap that Tyrion pulls in.
Yeah, because
Clash.
there's that scene where Aemon's in Aegon's bedroom and it looks like he's thinking about killing him, and but Leon Estamond is standing there and he's like,
yeah, that might have been like, you know, they talk about the Kingsguard as a paper shield, and if it's if it's Martin and Ned, it's rice paper.
Yeah,
what is
tissue paper?
Yeah, but now they're gone too. So it's like all Aegon has is like what, Larys, who is using him at best. Aegon is incredibly vulnerable.
His best friend Jasper Wilde is going to help him out.
Yeah. So Larys and Jasper, I love their sort of buddy conversation here because like both of them are
very fun.
Like both of them are clearly not particularly loyal to Aemond or to Aegon or to like anyone but themselves. But I like how they both are wearing these like fancy clothes and they're standing up on the balcony. And so we see how they are enjoying having wealth. They are enjoying looking down on everyone else. They are enjoying having power. And so they're calculating, how can we continue to gain power? How can we use this messed up situation to our own advantage? Which leader is least likely to cut off our heads?
Credit to the costume department. There's enough drippage in this scene to keep me awake at night.
And we haven't
This is more drippage than Daemon experienced in his bedroom at Harrenhal.
Wow, we haven't even talked about Simon Strong's Riz yet.
Oh my God. Look at him go.
God damn.
Yeah, I really enjoy this, how Jasper's like, well, I heard from my ex-step cousin-in-law that Sea Smoke might have a new rider, and Larys is like, oh, you'd better tell the Prince Regent that so that he kills you. And Jasper's like, no, I'm pretty sure that you should tell him so that he kills you.
So do you think, do they fear Aemond being angry at them for bringing this bad news?
Yeah.
Like because Aemond yelled about Jasper? About Jason previously and then sent Tylan to the Triarchy. Are they worried they're going to be sent to Essos if they bring him bad news?
He's unpredictable. They don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And they're looking at these people being sent to the wall for doing nothing actually. Right?
Yeah.
So that's on their minds. That's what Jasper Wilde is looking at right now. That's what he's thinking about while he's discussing this piece of information.
Yeah, that's true. They are looking at the scapegoats, Martin and Ned, and being like, well, we don't want to be scapegoats as well.
But then at the end of this episode, there is a dragon at King's Landing, and Aemond was completely unaware of anything. That, like, if he had known that Sea Smoke was claimed, then he might have been wise to other dragons being claimed.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like if that's the angle, like if we're meant to think that they're afraid of Aemond's reaction, I wish we had seen more of Aemond doing bad things to people bringing him bad news, you know? Because, like, the Jason letter is, like, the only thing that we've seen him getting really stroppy about in that way before.
Well, if they're not, maybe afraid isn't the right word. Trepidatious.
I think another way of interpreting it is that they're literally like, we don't like Aemond being the regent. We would prefer pliable Aegon, and therefore let's undermine Aemond by not telling him about Sea Smoke. But like, even that doesn't really make sense because Sea Smoke is as much a threat to Aegon as it is to Aemond. You know? So I find this scene a little bit inscrutable. I do find it funny that Jasper Ironrod, the Master of Laws, is saying, "Oh, I guess justice is served," and shrugging when Martin and Ned are being unfairly blamed for the riot.
I think he's questioning it. He's, undermining this decision. The way he like sort of sassily does that to a lot of things in the council. He's like, "Oh yeah, that was great. What a great idea that was."
I mean, in the books, Jasper's reputation is that he's really firm about the law. Maybe part of Jasper really does dislike this injustice. And that's part of why he disapproves of Aegon and he sort of resists bringing information to Aegon. Like, neither of these guys approve of the government right now.
Even though they are the government.
Yeah.
On another level, I think Jasper genuinely doesn't know what to do with this piece of information.
It is kind of it is also a genuinely baffling piece of information because they talk about, well, who the hell could the writer be? Yeah. Is it Rhaena? Who else could it be?
It's probably not Rhaena.
It does remind me.
We also get confirmation that Rhaena tried to claim Sea Smoke. We speculated that it might have been Sea Smoke or Vermithor or the cannibal.
And Laenor was her uncle. So it's interesting that Sea Smoke rejected Laenor's niece Rhaena, but accepted Laenor's half brother Adam.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Maybe it's to do with that Stefan Darkland stuff about authority, power, ambition.
Maybe Sea Smoke, like Laenor, prefers men.
Ooh. Is Sea Smoke gay?
Gay dragon. I like how it compares to in Game of Thrones in the books when like the small council with Tywin, like Joffrey's small council is talking about these rumors where Varys is like, I heard that in the east, a 3-headed dragon has been hatched by a Targaryen girl. And also there's krakens and chupacabras as well. And everyone's like, no, there's no possible way that's true.
Don't be ridiculous, Varys.
So like they hear a sort of garbled version of the true information about Daenerys and they dismiss it. So like just like these guys are hearing about this dragon. I mean, the difference is that Driftmark is like a stone's throw away from King's Landing. They should be able to verify this if we're being real. Like all of bloody Spicetown would have seen this dragon. It would not have been hard to verify. Although I guess maybe the information access to Driftmark is low with the blockade and stuff, but...
also to do with the blockade, I'd like to talk about the food situation in King's Landing.
Can we talk about the food?
Because, like, sure, their sea access is cut off. They can't get stuff shipped to them. Great. Okay, I get that. King's Landing is a city on a continent with, like, direct roads from the Reach, from the Riverlands.
But the Reach is at war because of the bees, Breeze.
Because of the bees have gone to war.
They're not getting any honey for their toast.
I know. I would have liked a direct mention of the land routes being cut off as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a baseline requirement of food, and when they have the blockade on the gullet and when the Reach is at war, there's less food available.
Yeah.
Like, I can believe that there's less food and that the first people to get food are the common people. We haven't seen anyone starving on the streets. Like, we've seen that there's a lot of food insecurity. But I don't know. I can believe it, is all I'm trying to say.
Good for you.
You wouldn't.
No, it's fine.
I can believe all sorts of things.
You won't believe what I can believe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I just like, I agree that these guys, they genuinely don't quite know what to do. I think the thing is, though, that Larys is like, he seems like he's manipulating Jasper.
Yeah.
He manipulates Jasper and says, well, don't tell Aemond. And my question is like, why does Larys not want Aemond to know?
Larys might be questioning the news's legitimacy. So like, hey, don't tell him stuff that is like A, potentially not important, and B, might get you hit or something.
But he's doing his manipulation eyebrows. These are not his sincerity eyebrows. These are his manipulation eyebrows. So I don't think he's sincerely saying, oh, that rumor's not true. I think he is trying to gain advantage somehow.
Yeah.
But whether over Aemond or whether over Jasper, I'm not entirely sure.
Does he need to gain advantage over Jasper Wild?
Yeah, I don't know. Jasper doesn't seem like. When has Jasper ever had any impact on the plot?
Yeah.
Like, he's like supported Aegon from the start on the council, but he's never like changed anyone's mind. He's just been a noddy. He's just been an enabler. He's just been a yes man.
And, you know, with the occasional sassy one-liner off to the side.
I like how Aemond stares at Larys and then Larys backs off, you know?
Yeah.
Larys is kind of fleeing from Aemond here. It reminds me of Jon looking up and seeing Catelyn looking down on him from the balcony.
Interesting. Of course, we also have to remember that this is the balcony from which Lionel and Viserys observed that was the stuff, and Aemond was down in that yard at the same time too.
This is the stuff balcony?
Yeah, this is the stuff balcony.
This is the titular stuff balcony. And Larys
That's
is
where
thinking,
the stuff happened.
But this time Larys is like, this is not the stuff. Look at him. I got to get away from this stuff.
This isn't the stuff, Larys.
This is the wrong stuff. Yeah, Larys is normally like a balcony skulker, like that's his thing normally. But Aemond spots him. I love the idea.
I hate being spotted.
Like you and Mitchell, the Aemond actor, keep saying that Aemond is like the Cyclops, and the idea of like the all-seeing, one-eyed Cyclops. He's polyphemus up in this shit.
And you can see those archery targets in the yard as well. They also look like one eye constantly watching.
Whoa.
Hey, look, if you're allowed to point out all the bays of hay, the bales of hay in the Night's Watch, I'm allowed to point out an archery target that looks like an eye.
You see how Larys's buttons on his clothes are circular and circles are eyeballs.
Oh, are we allowed to talk about the buttons on the clothes? Because Viserys's like drip in the Daemon vision, like where he's got those Targaryen sigil buttons holding his chain, that's so cool.
Oh, you got to point him out. So I feel like when Jace looks out and sees a new Dragon Rider returning, it's like the kid when there's a new baby on the way.
Absolutely.
And it's like, I'm being replaced. I'm not the baby anymore. I'm not the favorite. There's another Dragon Rider replacing me. I'm not good enough. So my mum is replacing me. That's what's happening. Because Rhaenyra says to Jace, oh, what are you going to do? Fight Vhagar on Arrax? On Vermax?
And that upsets him.
Yeah. And it's like, he's a young man who's trying to show his strength. But he has the smallest, cutest dragon. So it's like, how does he assert himself? I don't know if the dragon size makes any sense at this point.
Which dragon size particularly?
Well, like, Syrax grew up alongside Rhaenyra.
Yeah, so Syrax
Vermax grew up
something.
alongside Jace.
Yeah.
When Rhaenyra was Millie Alcock, Syrax was way bigger than Vermax is now.
Right.
How does that add up?
Yeah, I don't know. Good question.
I don't think that adds up. And maybe they hatched at different times or whatever, but
maybe the growth hormones just did different stuff.
It is feeding them different stuff. It's the microplastics.
Yeah.
Dragon eggs are full of microplastics now. This is very funny to me when like the government has found out there's a new Dragon Rider, but the Queen won't tell us who he is. It's like, what? Like that? Like that's like if the president announces, "Yeah, we have acquired a nuclear arsenal from our allies in
who I will not tell you about."
It's like, excuse me. And Barty is outraged that someone who isn't him is getting a dragon. Because like you just know that what Barty has been telling his therapist for years now is like, well, at least it's only the Targaryens who have dragons we don't. Like we would be first in line. If someone were to get dragons, it would be us, you know? We're the number 2 family. And now with every new Dragon Rider, Bartimus is slipping down the rankings and he's like, oh.
Imagine becoming even less important than you already are as Bartimus Celtigar, Lord of Core Isle.
Yeah. And yeah, I love his characterization of Adam as a thief.
Yeah, like
dragons.
Who I've just never heard about before.
Yeah, because there are some fun times in the books when characters run off with a dragon, and like the distinction between this person has bonded with this dragon and this is a sacred thing that has happened.
Someone stole Vhagar.
Yeah, versus someone stole Vhagar, or like, you know, Aerea stole Balerion, or Balerion stole Aerea, or like there's all these sort of interactions where it's like, when do we call this the sacred bond and when do we call this a kid on a lizard, you know? Like it's all very blurry and arbitrary, I think.
Gerardis delivers his wonderful style of speaking things where he leans forward and says he would like me to teach him how to speak High Valyrian.
Yeah, I think his delivery is hilarious. It's identical in every line and I love it so much.
Never change.
And yeah, the idea that Gerardus is the closest thing that Adam and Hugh and Ulf will have to a dragon keeper to teach them is a bit worrying. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell does Gerardus know about how to command a dragon?
I mean, he's the Dragonstone Maester. Maybe he's picked up a few things, but yeah, he will not have the deep generational ancient lore that the Dragon Keepers have.
I would love to know more about Gerardus' values. I mean, it's so fucking hilarious that we can even analyze these characters to this depth. But like all the random maesters in the books, they have a like philosophical perspective. Like there's maesters like Crescent, who were like, I am a secularist, I don't believe in magic, and I will stand up against Melisandre. And then there's maesters like Lewin, who's like, well, I did want to believe in magic, and I'd studied magic, but then I found that I can't have magic. And then there's maesters like Marwyn, who were like, yeah, magic's real, what of it, bro? I was talking to Quaithe on the glass candle on the blower the other night. Yeah, we were talking about spells all day, homie.
Melora the Mad Maid was haunting my dreams last night and told me that fucking Urathon Nightwalker.
Yeah. So like, it's a legit thing that maesters have different philosophical perspectives on magic, on Valyria, on dragons. So my question is like,
not to mention Maester Aemon, my goodness. That's a fraught one.
Yeah, Aemon was like WhatsApping Rhaegar saying like, are you the Messiah? No, I'm pretty sure based on this glyph, it actually means
my son's going to be the Messiah?
Oh, it was an error in the translation. So yeah, like I love that there's all these different metaphysical perspectives.
Do you think Maester Vagon is still alive?
Oh,
so Jaehaerys' son Vagon became a maester at the Citadel, and it's sort of question mark when he died.
That would actually be the coolest fucking thing if Maester Vagon turns up on Hot Date. Like that could happen.
It would like excuse so many things I dislike about the show if Maester, like a scene at Old Town where we meet Darren that I don't think is going to actually happen, but it'll be so cool to see. And Maester Vagon is like his tutor. That'll be so cute. God.
Yeah, like.
And they're both petting to Sarion together.
Vagon could be like the Aemon to Daeron in the way that Aemon to Jon Snow, you know? And like all this stuff, like Marwyn the Mage says that the maesters caused the Dance of the Dragons, but the Targaryen Vagon was a maester during the Dance of the Dragons. What if he was in on it? What if this becomes the grand Vagon conspiracy where
he
Vagon...
was behind it all. He's the one inside of fucking everyone's heads. He's the Greenseer that's telling Alice to fuck up Daemon's mind.
He's got the glass candle, so he is R'hllor. And but what, like, Vagon did not have a good relationship with his father, King Jaehaerys, from what I remember, right?
That is so unheard of for a son of Jaehaerys, for a child of King Jaehaerys.
I actually love it so much that the world famous greatest king ever, TM, was disliked by almost all of his children.
Yeah, the only two who actually liked him were his heirs.
But it's so real. Like that, like real politicians, real famous people, you'll be shocked to hear this, often have bad relationships with their children. And it's that thing of like high achieving versus like family and like, and so of course Jaehaerys has shitty relationships with these kids.
I mean, we talk about it all the time with Rhaenyra. How do you be a human and a ruler?
Yeah. But wouldn't it be cool if like Vagon was pissed off at Jaehaerys? Like, fuck you, Dad. I'm going to orchestrate a civil war from the Citadel as revenge for my daddy issues.
See, the thing with Aemon is they sent him to the Wall to be the Maester of Castle Black so that he couldn't like do anything, so that he was completely disconnected from all politics going forward. But they didn't do that with Vagon. He became just a Maester at the Citadel.
What do you think?
Wasn't he an Archmaester?
Vagon, I don't remember. I mean, that would be even more intriguing because that's like he's a pontiff of the anti-magic club, you know? But what is the overlap between Aemon at the Wall and Bloodraven at the Wall? Did they go together?
They went there at the same time, yeah.
What the hell was that relationship like?
Oh, God, I want to know about that.
And
we're going to meet them both in The Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
Oh, my God.
Because Aemon is Egg's brother and Bloodraven shows up later on.
I really hope it's handled with like thought to this kind of deep lore.
Yeah.
Because Aemon and like Bloodraven.
We're also going to meet young Walder Frey.
That's very funny. I want to be in like the casting. I want to see the casting process.
They have to cast Jefferson Hall as someone, don't they? Someone suggested to me that he should play both of the Fossaways.
I would be so thrilled. Because Jefferson plays Jason and Tyland, the twins.
And he's the only person to like play three characters across this franchise, being Hugh of the Vale and Tyland and Jason.
# Jefferson Hall is the many-faced god. So that was our Gerardus tangent. But my point from 10 minutes ago was that, like, I think that it would be cool to know what Gerardus knows and feels about magic, about dragons, about Valyria versus the Citadel versus anti-magic. And, like, he presumably has access to these dragon Valyrian scrolls, right? Which, incidentally, I find it really funny, the like diamond pattern bookshelves that they have, which look really aesthetic, but which are like a nightmare if you're trying to use the Dewey Decimal System. Like, how the hell do you order those scrolls in a sensible way?
We actually use the Gerardus system here in the Dragonstone Library.
It's an entirely diagonal system of categorization.
I invented a diagonal system of numbers.
I'm also frustrated that Corlys continues to do nothing. Like, they tried to make it all epic when Corlys became the Hand of the Queen. He has done nothing.
I'm pretty disappointed in Corlys across this whole season.
He has done nothing.
I've enjoyed the scenes with his sons. I enjoyed his cute little picnic with Rhaenys.
I like the scenes with his sons, but he's had the same scene with his sons like 4 times. He's like awkwardly almost but not quite acknowledged them like 4 times. It's like, fuck, like I get it. Do something now, please.
Come on, do something. And he does. Like, he talks to Adam this episode, but like he doesn't do anything with the power that he's been given now. Corlys Velaryon is like one of the most powerful people on the planet.
And the richest and the most ambitious. Do you think that he sailed to the other side of the world 9 times by being this passive?
Well, I like to think that his ambition is sort of like facing death now that Rhaenys is dead.
Yeah, Rhaenys died.
As Baylor says, did they know that you did
it
it all for her? Like, I'd love to see more pontification from Corlys on that matter.
Yeah, I want to be invited into his interior world a little bit more.
I think we really did need a scene between Rhaenyra and Corlys where they talk about Rhaenys and Laenor and Corlys's plans, his life, his ambition, and how we need to make you hand so that we can win and avenge Rhaenys and avenge your son, who I didn't kill, by the way.
Corlys is meant to be like a billionaire, explorer, politician, scientist,
he's
mega,
Teddy
like,
Roosevelt.
big dick. Like, yeah, like that's what he's meant to be. He should be one of the characters who, when he steps onto the screen, you're like, what's this guy gonna do? You know? But he's
something crazy's about to happen.
Yeah, but he's not that in this show, which is unfortunate. And I look, I like the idea of a more subdued Corlys after the death of his family. But
we needed something to contrast with that.
Yes.
Also, he did almost die last season.
Yes. Yeah, I think Corlys has a lot of good reasons to be more passive and thoughtful in this season. But yeah, like you say, some contrast would be good. We did get to see him fight in battle in the Stepstones for about 5 seconds.
We saw him puff his chest up at Viserys, like asserting that, hey, my family should be up there with you on the throne.
We got his conflict with Vaemond. So yeah, like I think we got a lot of good stuff.
I would just like
1.
Characters to discuss how Corlys has changed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes this show leans a little too much on being subtle and leaving things unsaid.
It's very suggestive and gestural, and I would like, and I like that. I like that, but I would also like characters to give us some solidity on some matters.
Like, I mean, like in the inside the episode, when the showrunners and actors are talking, sometimes they say things where it's like, oh, this character felt this, and it's like, I did not get that at all from the episode. Sometimes. I mean, like when Ryan Condal said that, oh yeah, Alicent was thinking about killing herself, that wasn't the vibe that I got from watching the episode.
It's the vibe I got from the trailer, but not from the episode.
Yeah, I mean, I got it when she was like holding herself under the water in the bath.
Yeah.
I got a bit of a suicidal vibe from that. But
Absolutely.
When she was like swimming in the lake, I was like, oh no, this is peace. This is absolution.
She's just having a lovely time.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah. And I feel like, I don't know, but I wonder if when they film the inside the episode segments, when they do the press junkets and stuff, have they even finished and finalized the editing of the episode at that point? Or are they still tweaking it, which might tweak the meaning of the episode?
Yeah, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. So I like how Bartimaeus is like loudly and crotchetedly. With much crotch, Bartimaeus Keltogar is complaining about Bastard Adam riding a dragon.
He's got more crotch than you've ever seen.
It's a high degree of crotch, whereas Jace is feeling the exact same concerns, but he is not voicing them at all. Like, it's almost like Bartimaeus is voicing Jace's internal monologue. Thank
God I don't have to say it, because it'll look really bad if I was saying this.
Yeah, I think it's quite fun. And then when they say that, Queen Rhaenyra is not attending her government today, at this crucial moment. And then Bartimus like theatrically like puts his cup on the table and goes, well, I'm grumpy about that. It's like Bartimus is like showing Jace's emotions. The way that's edited and shot, I think is really fun. So Rhaenyra talks to the one person who she actually does trust and respect in her government, which is the person who is not officially on her government, which is Mysaria. Look at that face. She is showing the whites of her eyes. She thinks she's Jesus, bro.
Oh, yeah.
She thinks she's Jesus.
She's currently saying that this isn't lucky. This is preordained. This is like God has given me Adam and sea smoke.
This should be scary. This is whites in the eyes, nostril flaring, like fart huffing, I'm the Messiah. Like this is dangerous stuff.
And I love that like we can understand why she thinks that.
Yeah. And partly it's because she has to believe it because otherwise she's going to lose and die. And yeah, again, Rhaenyra says that Adam must have Targaryen blood. I mean, have we done the spiel about like the Velaryons, as far as we know in the lore, don't have Targaryen blood, but it is like plausible and possible that they have some Targaryen blood through like Valena Velaryon's mother is a possible person who may have given the Velaryons Targaryen blood. But it's kind of weird because the Velaryons have never had a dragon and like, you know, certainly Corlys in Hot D talks as though he does not have Targaryen blood. Yeah. So it seems as though the Velaryons do not have Targaryen blood. However, it is plausible that they have some. And therefore that might be how Adam can ride a dragon.
Yeah, but you think that Rhaenyra would have, like, that's the first thing she would have checked.
Yeah, true. But I mean, there's no way the annals are true. I mean, even now, like people's paternity is often questionable. Like back here, they have no DNA testing. They have no photographic evidence of anything. Like, you know, Orys Baratheon. No one knows if Orys Baratheon really was the bastard half-brother of Aegon or not. You know?
I guess Rhaenyra discounted that idea. But, I guess the Baratheons being on the other side of the war doesn't really help.
Which, again, I still like the idea that Rhaenyra could say, hey, Boros, if you switch sides, I'll give you a dragon. Like, come on. Yeah, like hashtag Floris on
if
the
Aemond,
cannibal.
If Aemond goes back on his betrothal, like, why not?
Hell yeah. But, yeah, I mean, Rhaenyra more than anyone knows that sometimes people fuck around and sometimes people's parentage is not what it says on the family trees,
But because she's, like, spent the last, like, 2 decades of her life denying it, she doesn't even want to acknowledge that that's the case. It hasn't occurred to her that bastards can ride dragons, even though she's seen it happen 3 times.
Yeah, with her 3 sons. Yeah, I really like it because it makes the blacks hypocritical. Like this whole show, the Greens have been the hypocrites, right? Because Alicent's like, oh, don't fuck around, but then Alicent has sex with Kristen, and like, oh, you know, we tell the truth, but we're going against Viserys' wishes. Yeah, like the Greens were the hypocrites, but now Rhaenyra and the blacks are the hypocrites because they're like anti-bastard club and they're all like twisting up on their own lies. At least Jace is, which is so cool and fun.
I love hypocrites.
Well, it's just interesting. It's great.
Yeah.
Mysaria steals mushrooms.
She has a little chuckle.
I found this so delightful. This is the first time that Mysaria has cracked a smile in like the entire series, I think. Which is so beautiful because it shows Mysaria's comfort around Rhaenyra, you know? Like, Mysaria has this relationship where she feels like she's comfortable and tender with Rhaenyra. And
she doesn't have to put on that ridiculous accent anymore.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Wouldn't it be funny if she, like, put the accent back on when she's talking to someone she doesn't like?
That'd be so funny.
Like, maybe she does
it was at its worst in episode 9 when she was talking to Otto.
Yeah, maybe her accent is just her way of telling people to fuck off. Like, she doesn't want to talk to them. She just puts on this heavy accent until they leave, whereas now she's more chill. And yeah, apparently she knows about 80 Targaryen bastards. 80? 80?
You didn't feel the need to mention this?
How many of them are Aegons?
How many of them are real?
Yeah, because that's the thing. There's no way of verifying this, especially if they are the children of sex workers at brothels, right? How do you verify the paternity with a certainty in that circumstance?
How can you have any paternity certainty?
The uncertainty of the paternity is... Oh, there aren't many rhymes for those words.
There are actually lots, but they're all like really technical words.
It's hurting me.
Wow.
80 Targaryen bastards is a lot of Targaryen bastards.
Maybe enough to claim a dragon or 2.
Yeah. And Rhaenyra in this moment is going, oh, wait, but my sons are Targaryen bastards and this could be politically complicated.
I need to sit down for this.
Yeah. Yeah, and so she's simultaneously grappling with the implications for her children, her like actual sincere prejudice against common people and the political ramifications of that. And Mazaria makes this great argument that like, well, this entire show, you've been betrayed by half the kingdom, half the lords of the kingdom.
Yeah. If anything, the common folk are probably more beholden to you. They trust you more.
But we just saw last episode that the opinion of the common people was changed by
a couple of ships showing up.
By Sylvie loudly complaining about stew in a pub, and that caused a riot. Like, if they're that changeable, like, how reliable are the small folk, you know?
Well, that like propaganda was based on physical reality. It was based on a tangible thing that was happening.
But there was also hypocrisy to that because Rhaenyra was giving them the food that Rhaenyra had blocked in her blockade. But she was only
doing that because the Greens stole the throne from her, you know?
Which is the same.
And from Sylvie's perspective, from the perspective of the propaganda that's being put forward to the common people, like your starvation is being caused by the Greens' greed in snatching the throne, right?
But they only stole the throne because Rhaenyra had bastard children and handled primogeniture.
When did the war start? Was it when Viserys farted on the throne 30 years ago?
Exactly. Well, it's funny because it's the same thing that the Tyrells do in Game of Thrones, is that they withhold the food from King's Landing, and then they give the food to King's Landing when they make the alliance with the Lannisters, and then they like get all the credit.
We love the Tyrells now
for giving people the food that they had withheld, you know? So, classic move.
Rhaenyra says that people have been making fun of her and her bastard children for 20 years, which I think is she rounding up there?
Yeah, how old is Jace meant to be?
I think not 20.
Yeah, I don't think anyone knows about character ages in any kind of consistent way.
Oh, there are people who will be angry at you for saying that.
On the wiki, Game of Thrones wiki,
Wikia?
Well, I don't even want to call it the wiki because Wikia is just such a nightmare that, you know what?
Wikia sucks, by the way, everyone.
Yeah, Wikia.
And we should migrate elsewhere.
Wikia is a nightmare, but one of my extremely niggly pet peeves is when people refer to any wiki as a Wikipedia, which is something that...
Oh, who says that?
Lots of people refer to wikis as...
A Wikipedia of Ice and Fire. What? I've never heard that.
People do that shit. People quote Wikipedia as though it's a source. I've seen people quote Alt Schwift X as well as though that is a source.
That terrifies me when people quote my stuff as a source. It's so scary.
It's horrifying because like Alt Schwift X has attributions on screen. Like you can use the primary text. Quote the primary text.
A good Wikipedia article has a bunch of references that you could use as a jumping off point to research more stuff. Like use that instead of the article. Go one step further than step 0.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just scary, man. It's just scary.
And of course, when you're referencing the Wiki of Ice and Fire, that is also pretty well sourced. A lot of the things on the pages aren't actually correct, but the things they link to are the text, and you can check the text.
There's a lot of wikis that have a lot of citations. That doesn't mean that the citations actually support the thing that it says on the article. So that's why you have to check the citations. And the problem with the citations everywhere, in my opinion, is that they will just cite, oh, here's a book.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it's on page 300 of this book that I have.
Yeah, you want me to read the entire book just to find the thing? We live in an age of hypertext. If you're citing a source, include the sentence that is most relevant to prove the thing that you are claiming that you have the citation for. So then people can actually Control F and find the relevant text and actually verify. If you cite an entire book, that's not a helpful citation. And like, I know that that's not the standard. Like academically, it's okay to just cite a book in a lot of contexts.
Typically, you put the fucking page number in the citation.
I mean, page numbers suck because different editions have different page numbers. Yeah. So, like,
that's why you should also put the edition in the citation. Anyway,
in the year of, but have a fucking link and the text and the links. It should always be one click away. In the year of our Lord 2024. The full context of your citation should be one click away. Okay, I'm getting off my soapbox.
Rhaenyra, you got to put the full citation in the Dragonstone library.
You can cut that,
and that's no, that has to stay. All of it that's going to YouTube. That's actually going to. That's how I start the video. I'm going to edit that to be the first thing we say.
Just know for every like annoying soapbox rant I do, there are 10 more rants that I hold myself back from doing. I'm sparing you. Okay.
You're the inheritor of David Mitchell's legacy.
I wish that Jon Snow could hear this line. Let us raise an army of bastards. Like that is a fist pump kind of a moment.
I also it's sort of like wear it like armor. You know, the disparaging thing they all say about you, wear it, use it.
Yeah. That's what she's doing. Like underdog army because like she's the woman who's excluded for sex. Her children are bastards who were excluded for their hair color and their bastardy. It's like let's gather up the marginalized and the underdogs and let's
small folk.
Take it to these snobby, bloody, incestuous Habsburgs on
which
their
I'm
bloody...
also one of.
Well, yeah. It's fun. It's cool. It's dangerous. It's scary. It's all of those things.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Oh, look, Adam's in a rich person's house.
And he's only wearing 3 belts.
Yeah, that's a low number of belts for Adam.
Oh, maybe there's one underneath. Underneath his...
I think it may be the same 4 belts. He's just wearing them slightly differently.
Okay. We'll have to ask Clinton Liberty.
For what possible reason could he need 4? We do have to ask him about his belts. Hi, Clinton Liberty. Can we interview you about your belts?
We don't really care about anything else you'd have to say, but the belts.
Yeah, we're really interested in your belts.
Clinton Liberty, by the way, appears to be the happiest person on the planet. Every photo he posts from the House of the Dragon set, he's just like, he is infectiously elated.
He's got a great family portrait photo with Steve Toussaint and Abubakar, which if only the Velaryon family was that happy in real life. Look
where's Eve Best in that photo?
Look how like his father Corlys walks in and Adam goes from like smiling to oh shit.
Oh god, what did I do?
Yeah, it is like that. I mean, it's funny because in the books, Adam and Alan are like 16 and 15 years old, and they almost act like that. Here, like they almost act like little kids in the face of their father because they're sort of, they've never been treated as his sons. And so the awkwardness. And there's also the class thing because he is the rich, powerful lord and the hand and all of those things. So they have to be sort of supplicant to him, even though they arguably have a right to that same status by virtue of being his sons. So it's such a awkward situation on so many levels. And
Corlys doesn't know how to navigate this any better than they do.
Yeah.
But he tries. He actually gives it a little go in this scene. He's like, shut up. You don't need to ask me for leave to leave the name. You have a dragon, Adam. Don't be ridiculous.
Which is why it's fascinating that Adam has a power that Corlys does not.
Yeah. And it's that has caused Corlys to acknowledge that Adam exists.
You know what Corlys... Corlys's power is in his fleets. Ships are made of wood. Dragons are... we learned in the barnacles. 4th Dornish War. Yeah, those are the 2 weaknesses, barnacles and dragons. Adam is kind of the hard counter to Corlys if he wanted to be. And yeah, Corlys does that thing where he silences and interrupts people with a gesture, which I think he's done before.
Yeah.
Which is a good way of showing his just confidence and power. I love this delivery where Corlys is like, oh, I should probably say something nice to my son.
Yeah, something that lets him know that I am willing to acknowledge that he exists.
So he says, well done, but he immediately scurries away. He's
See you later.
He's already leaving as he says, well done.
Yeah, but it's enough. Adam cracks a little bit of a smile there.
So what is Corlys feeling? Is he ashamed that he cheated on Rhaenys? Is he ashamed that he wasn't there for Adam and Alan? Does he just not know how to act because of the class thing? He's
also proud of his son.
Does he have feelings about the mother of Adam and Alan? Does he have guilt about how he may have treated her? Where is she now?
To answer your question, all of the above, and please, for the love of God, I need to hear him think about these things.
Yeah,
we need more Corlys scenes. That's just the solution to life's problems.
We need more Corlys scenes where he talks about his feelings.
Yeah, but I understand that a large portion of the character is his reluctance to do so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I like the energy of the ultra successful guy who refuses to have a feeling, which is, it's a believable archetype.
Oh, yeah.
And the one person who he could show feelings to was Rhaenys, right? And that obviously the death of his wife is having a catastrophic impact on him. So
I mean, he almost showed a feeling to Baelor, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
Tully Shields, let's go.
Oscar on a horse. Is that Oscar?
I think it is, yeah.
It's a funny helmet he's got there, isn't it?
I like his horse though.
Yeah. I love Harrenhal looking like a hellish ruin.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare
It's
of a place.
death.
Yeah.
It's death. It's fantastic.
Is Damon praying?
It sure looks like it.
It looks like he's praying.
Yeah, we've never seen like all of these previous shots when Damon's alone in Harrenhal. He's looked haunted. He's looked discombobulated. He's looked like dazed and confused. But here he actually looks centered. He looks still.
Sort of reverent.
Yeah, like he looks like he's actually found the center, you know, which I think is quite.
He's found a bit of footing.
It's quite beautiful.
And then Simon shows up to tell him, hey, it's time for your moral core to be questioned.
I love that this is how every Damon scene has started in Harrenhal, is with Damon alone, and then Simon goes, yoo-hoo, like time for lamprey pie. It's just such a funny tonal thing where Damon's like going through hell, and Simon's like, time for red currant paste. Damon is...
Congratulates Oscar on his granddad dying.
Yeah, which may have been caused by Alice Rivers.
May have.
I've seen some people argue that like, oh, Alice just knew it was going to happen. But like, it's like, well, why did she go to Grover to heal him at River Run?
No, she killed him.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think. But anyway, so last time Oscar and Damon talked, Damon was very rude and told him to kill his grandpa.
He was a meanie. Whereas
now he's like more polite, kind of, but he's also very blunt. And a bit sarcastic. So like it's not a radically different vibe.
No, and you know, treating him with a bit more respect is simply because he's now the Lord of River Run.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not saying I love the language countenancing barbarities in the Queen's name.
I'm enjoying a lot of Oscar's dialogue.
He could have said you did bad shit, but he says
you countenanced barbarities.
Yeah, it's quite wonderful. And so I think what these scenes are about is that normally when Damon experiences pushback and resistance, he either cuts off the head or leaves.
Yep.
And the difference with this episode is that Damon is actually engaging and compromising and swallowing a little bit of his pride and finding a solution.
The only person whose head he cuts off in this scene is the person who like is already on side with him. He's not cutting off the heads of the people who disagree with him, which is what he would usually do.
Yeah, I agree. And I love Oscar's bluntness as well. They all hate you.
Yeah, wonderful stuff.
And I like the sort of smile on his face when he says that because he also hates Damon. I just like the very simple lesson of this scene, which is that if you're a dick to everyone, they won't like you and they won't help you.
Yeah,
because like Damon is this bad boy archetype where it's like, oh, I'm cool. I don't play by the rules.
I don't care what you think, man.
But as it turns out, if you act like that to people, no one will like you and no one will help you, and that's a problem.
And it'll make it very hard to run a country.
Yeah. So it's like the show's indulging in the fantasy of the bad boy archetype, but also exploring the consequences of behavior.
Yeah, in episode 7, we had to engage with of season 1. We had to engage with the question of do you rule through love or through fear? And Damon was like, it has to be through fear. Like through fire. We're fire and blood. We have to terrorize people so that they obey us. And then that's what he's tried to do here, and it's no one likes him. And it makes his like imagine if he came here and he's like, hey besties, I need to. Can you guys help me out with the little war I'm having? There's a warby-dorby happening in the Crown Lands.
Get in, idiot. We're doing a war.
Yeah, and he's like, we'll treat you. We're going to defeat the Westerlands, and I'll give you like Craighall and the Golden Tooth and their land. You know, shit like that, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like just, I have a dragon and I'm going to do atrocities. Like, are you fucking kidding?
All of that was for Damon, not for anyone else.
Like, imagine you're met with Bracken pushback. They don't want to side with you in the war. So instead of like saying, like trying to compromise, like, hey, we'll try and sort out a deal between you and the Blackwoods, like another pit stop thing that happens between you guys every generation. Or, hey, maybe I'll like cede you some Westerlands after we defeat them in the war.
That's one of the things.
Do you want a bit of the Harrenhal lands? I don't know. Harrenhal has a lot of land, and I'm the Lord of Harrenhal now.
Like that's what Jace did at the Twins, which was so great, was offer things to the Freys and make
Jace
deals.
has been a good politician. God.
And Daemon also has a lot to offer potentially to the River Lords. Like you say, when the Westerlands are in enemy territory, why not carve a bit of that to the Riverlands?
But because of Daemon's insane ego and his like way of treating everything violently, the only way he knew to get the Riverlands to bend to him was to wave his dragon around and to kill babies and, you know, have women violent. You know, he's an idiot. That's dumb.
He's a bit of a dunce, and it's taken him 45 years, but he is now becoming an adult slowly.
Good for you, man.
I love how they show how much taller Daemon is than Oscar. And like it highlights the ridiculousness that like Oscar's a child and he's so much more mature than Daemon is. Yeah. And he's a much better politician than Daemon is.
I really like Oscar Tully and his gloves.
He's great. He's great. He there's this interesting gesture where Daemon taps his sword on Oscar's chest. And I've seen some people argue that this is like Daemon subtly indicating to Oscar, hey, like my sword is the solution here. Tell me to execute Willem, which I think is an interesting interpretation. I don't think it's true because it would make more sense for him to just use his words. But it is a very curious gesture where he sort of taps his sword on Oscar, which could be interpreted as threatening.
Yeah, but it could even be encouraging, like, good shit, kid.
Yeah. I don't know. He is smiling when he does it. So it is a funny little gesture. I like it.
Daemon is insane, so we can't like dig too deep into the motivations behind every single little gesture he makes.
Daemon does have like demon goat brain right now, so I don't think like we should put a lot of stock in.
But yeah, it is interesting conversation nonetheless. Godswood time.
Daemon emerges from this dark tunnel into the wide open world, which is a rebirth, clearly.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And then he says, in the deepest darkness comes the dawn, which is clearly a reference to the first long night in the War for the Dawn and Azor Ahai and Lightbringer.
Well,
which
it is.
Happens in front of a weirwood tree.
It is. And it has George Martin's face on it.
Yeah, that's fun, isn't it? Apparently, they modeled the face on this weirwood to actually look like the face of the author, George R. R. Martin. Fun. We see some...
They should have put, like, Kermit's face on the tree. Or Elmo's face. Like the Muppet.
I think one of the things that we haven't said, or maybe you have said it, is that all these funny things I've said about Grover Tully, like not being able to seal his bowels and being flaccid, that's like what a puppet is. Like a Muppet. A puppet is flaccid and can't seal its bowels because it has a hole at the back and all of that.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's kind of genius. I think I saw that on Twitter somewhere. There was one other thing they said about he can't speak as well. Yeah, he can't speak. He can't seal his vowels. He's flaccid. He's a fucking hand
Then
puppet.
how is Oscar going around unimpeded by all of these things?
Yeah. Do you think they're going to introduce Kermit and Elmo?
No, because Oscar said that his dad is dead. And like if he's inheriting after Grover, that means that his older brother Kermit doesn't exist either.
Yeah, I think they are consolidating the Tullys, and I think it's not
they
a bad idea.
picked the two like least egregious names,
and they picked a good actor. Like it's not easy to find an actor this young who's this good.
Yeah,
so.
I really enjoy him.
Yeah,
and his fish scale armor.
Yeah, keeping up the tradition that goes all the way to Edmure.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Although more importantly, what is Simon wearing?
Oh my gosh, it's so purple and regal. He looks more kingly than the king consort does.
Yeah, true.
Daemon says, let us put all the old unpleasantness behind us, which is code for let's not...
Hey, please don't accuse me of the things I did.
Yeah, be a bit like if the Germans after World War II were like, let's put all the old unpleasantness behind us.
Wash our hands of this conflict, shall we?
Yeah. And Willem's like, great, I got away with it. But then Oscar does his speech about how he is now the ruler of the Riverlands. And he has a lot of humility that he brings to the table. Maybe too much.
Yeah.
It makes me think of like when Rob in season 1 was talking to the North Lords and like...
When his mate was bloody tough.
Yeah, like Rob was trying to act tough. Whereas here, Oscar's like, I'm just a kid and you don't have to listen to me, but...
He's sort of like emphasizing his underdog status here.
True, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that he's reading the room, and the room is that everyone's pissed off at Daemon. And they want, and Oscar is framing himself as the person who will succeed against Daemon.
Yeah.
Oscar is the underdog. He's the David who's going to take down Daemon the Goliath. And so he stands up to Damon, and he insults Damon to his face and then squares up to Damon. So I think that's the narrative that Oscar is very cleverly weaving.
It's also very clever that he gives Damon a way out. He presents, hey, if you give us the concession of beheading Willem Blackwood, this that seals everything. It's all good.
Yeah, he does what any smart politician does, which is he creates the problem, he defines the problem, and then he defines what the solution is and who has to do it in a way that benefits him.
Yeah.
The whole story from start to finish. It's beautiful. And he insults Damon repeatedly. And
Damon can't really do anything about that because he needs the Lord Paramount of the Riverlands. Which,
in a past version of Damon may have just cut off Oscar's head at this point. Like we saw what he did to Vaymond. But look at him. He backs down. Oscar squares up to Damon, and Damon backs down.
This kid is serious, God. I wonder who, does Oscar remind Damon of anyone? Is Damon thinking about Jace here? I don't know. Maybe I'm going a bit too far.
A young Vizzy T.
Maybe.
They talk a lot about, what do you think?
Yeah, because there's that vision later where Viserys is like, man, power, it fucking sucks, doesn't it? And here we see Oscar stepping up to take power and using it so effectively. Like, what's going to become of this kid because of the power from his grandfather dying that he's inherited?
Maybe Vizzy and Damon can't handle power, but maybe bloody Oscar can.
Yeah.
Maybe you just need to know how to use it properly. And
because the Tullys, their power exists in a trepidatious position where it's not guaranteed by the strength of their own lands and men. It's guaranteed by the strength of their politics.
Yeah. There's more humility to it, though, because they kind of admit, there's no pretense with the Tullys that they are the strongest and greatest and they have superior blood. They're just the guys who have the job of being in charge, and they clearly need to get along with everyone and respect everyone in a way that the Targaryens have to pretend that they're a superior race, which is a pretty stressful thing to do.
Yeah, as we see from Jace, it destroys you from the inside having to keep up with that charade.
Yeah, whereas the Tullys, if they just have to govern well, maybe that's not quite as stressful.
And of course, the Riverlands have a bit greater impetus to be united than most of the other regions because the Riverlands are getting invaded every other week.
Yeah, they got to stick together. Well, they largely don't, but they do at least have an incentive to stick together.
Yeah, it's not that they do, but they really should. And it's so much fun that the most notorious feud between two houses in Westeros exists in the Riverlands between the Blackwoods and Brackens.
Yeah.
We also see the presence of a lot of other river houses in this scene, which I really enjoy, seeing the Mallister Eagle and the Piper Lady.
The Darry Plowman.
Yeah. Attention to the heraldry that we just did not see towards the end of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. The Game of Thrones had no interest in minor houses. They barely cared about the great houses. Who rules Storm's End?
Oh, I forgot.
Here's the new Prince of Dawn. My goodness. So,
and then in the Kingsmoor, anyway.
So, there are no Ironborn houses, as it turns out. Everyone's in the regulation brown grey leather.
Yeah.
So Willem is the first to kneel to Oscar, which is probably a smart thing to do. Trying to define himself as an ally to Oscar.
Yeah. And it's if you guys fall in line, then we're all in agreement that what I did was okay and we don't have to kill me.
Something that's very unclear to me is, did Willem Blackwood's atrocities only affect the Brackens on Bracken land, or did they affect other River Lords' territories?
My read of it is that it was just the Bracken lands, but everyone is offended by it.
Yeah. They really were not very specific about exactly what was done.
I know there were children being taken from their mothers, septs burning.
Yeah, it might have been more effective if we saw a little bit of that. Remember in Game of Thrones when we saw Molestown being attacked by the wildlings and we saw Gilly there, and it's oh wow, it's actually emotionally effective to see the atrocities.
Also, one of my favorite scenes in season 6 is when the Hound's sept that he's building gets burnt down. Everything surrounding that scene I fucking hate, but that itself is interesting that we see the minutiae of the degradation of people's honor in war in the Riverlands.
Also, Jon Ygritte and Tormund attacking Ollie's village. Yeah. Oh, no, that's just Tormund.
Jon's not there.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, those little scenes can be really effective.
I'm going to eat your mama.
Despite how...
I wonder if this guy's evil.
Despite how cartoonish that was, I love that moment. It's quite fun. Oscar says that Daemon needs to execute Willem. And it's a way of showing the Riverlords that Oscar provides justice to his people. And it's in a similar way that Martin and Ned are made the scapegoats for the riot. Willem is made the scapegoats for Damon and Willem's atrocities, you know? Like, they could have framed this as it's all Damon's fault and therefore we must reject Damon. But instead, Oscar was like, no, it's all Willem's fault. And Damon will participate in bringing justice to Willem. Therefore, it's all groovy, which is a smart way to frame it.
It's like a ritual sacrifice. Like, obviously, it's in front of a weirwood, so there's that. But it's also a ritual sacrifice to bring Damon and the Riverlands together. Like, their pact is now bound in Willem Blackwood's blood.
Yeah, which is not what Willem had in mind when he started all of this. I think it's funny how Willem brought Amos and Amos's sons captive to this meeting.
Yeah, God.
Like that just seems like a terrible thing to do because it's showing everyone.
Of the room.
Yeah, it's showing everyone the evidence of his crimes. It's like why would you do that? And like Willem does make a point, which is that the Brackens sided with Aegon and the Greens. The bad guys, they're the enemy. Yeah. So that's what they did wrong, and that's why they needed to be punished, which is an argument which might be compelling to some people. And I like how Oscar says, like, the reason why I've got to support Rhaenyra is that my grandsire, Lord Paramount Grover Tully, swore to Viserys to support Rhaenyra.
If we here in the Riverlands don't respect oaths, then what am I? Like, what do the Tullys become if we start disregarding things we've said, like our grandfathers have said to each other's grandfathers? We have to respect our oaths or else my power falls apart.
This would have been a nice opportunity to lean into the religious aspect because, like, the only person here who believes in the old gods is Willem Blackwood, and he's the guy who gets killed in front of the weirwood. Everyone else here, presumably, supports the faith of the Seven.
So Damon, who supports himself
yeah,
as a god.
Yeah. And I wonder if in some sense this is the old gods getting what they wanted all along. Like, I would have liked it if Alice was watching this scene. If Alice had some feeling about the blood being fed to the weirwood.
If we saw her watching from a balcony like we saw Laris watching from a balcony.
Yeah. If there's a balcony, someone's got a skulk on it.
Exactly. What else are balconies for?
Like, here's DELL the goat. Like, DELL is the one who's getting the blood,
Goat's
right?
in the chat, everyone.
Like, this is the demon goat who's getting the blood sacrifice, right?
Yeah. It's all for DELL.
I would have loved it if, like, I don't know, the goat had bloody footprints, or if the goat was like lapping up the blood, or the goat was like
the rat laps up the blood in episode 5 of season 1.
Yeah, that's Vargo Hoat, by the way.
Oh yeah,
yeah, future time traveling.
I thought it was Satan.
Well, who do you think Vargo Hoat is?
Oh yeah, he's a future time traveling greenseer.
So writer Sarah Hess did joke that Alice transforms into the goat.
Yeah, she joked it. It was a joke that she said and nothing else.
I like how Damon sees the ghost of his dead brother and he says, "What is this?"
Yeah, I'm so sick of this. What the fuck is going on?
Like, previously he's been like really discombobulated by having these visions, but now he just sits next to the ghost and he's like, "What's up? What do you want from me? Yeah, what is it this time?" Like the border between dream and reality is so permeable now that he's just freely walking in and out of reality.
Yeah.
And Viserys,
it's also a level of like accepting that like this is what he's done.
Yeah, and it's also like accepting the journey that he's on. Like, he's no longer fighting against it. He's no longer banging on the door like he was previously. Now he's just like going with the flow of it. And in the same way that
he's listening to the ghosts now.
He's listening to the ghosts. Just like Rhaenyra is listening to the gods.
Yeah.
Rhaenyra decides to go with the cosmic destiny flow, and now Daemon is doing the same thing.
Yeah, God has presented me with sea smoke, and here God is presenting Daemon with Viserys and this question of power.
And the performance and the weird shots when Daemon was executing Willem Blackwood were weird. Like, it didn't show Willem getting beheaded. It just showed like Daemon's super close-up face and these weird sounds, which like made it seem like a weird religious experience.
Yeah, we became inside Daemon's head, and Willem's cries were muffled.
He was sort of, detaching while he's killing, which is maybe not a good thing.
Well, how else are you supposed to kill people you know?
Daemon didn't make a point of looking in the man's eyes and hearing his last words before he cut off the head.
Yeah, true. Also, there was no opportunity for Willem to ask to go to the wall instead.
Yeah, in contrast to Martin and Red Ned. I wonder what, like, the rightful Lord of Raventree Hall, the leader of House Blackwood is not
Benji.
currently Willem. It's Benjicott Blackwood. And I wonder how Benjicott Blackwood feels about the atrocities that were committed by his uncle Willem.
And then his beheading, his snap judgment to kill his uncle Willem while he wasn't present.
Low key, if Benji is of a cynical bent, he might think that, wow, it sure is great that our sworn enemies, the Brackens, have been savage, but I'm not being blamed for it. Willem is being blamed for it.
Yeah.
And now I can rule in a state of advantage.
Yeah.
That might be what he's thinking. So Viserys says, being king sucks. It destroyed me. And would you really want it?
Do you still want this? Hey, I'm offering you this. And we get a close up on the Stark sigil on the crown, which is nice.
Oh, right after the Weirwood execution.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
And, the Jace secured the twins so that the Stark army could cross the Trident. So we'll probably be seeing the Starks again soon.
Yeah, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that the preview for next episode showed some Northmen. So
then why did I tiptoe around it? If you're just going to say
you can tiptoe. I'm going to clomp right in on the hardwood floorboards.
You're going to step right into the dragon goo.
I sure am, just like Ulf. And which is neat that they're bookending the season with the Starks. So do you think that Daemon wants to be king?
I think he's questioning that now. I think he did. I think when he came to Harrenhal, he was like, fuck it. I hate Rhaenyra. I don't want to deal with this anymore. It's just me. I'm batting for myself. It's me and Simon Strong all the way, baby. But now he's like, yeah, that'll kill me. I don't want that. I don't want to become you. Like, I needed to help you instead of distancing myself, and look what it would do to me. I mean, look at how they're framed here.
Yeah, they look similar.
Viserys is asking Daemon, hey, is this what you want to become? And Daemon clearly doesn't want to become Viserys.
Isn't like the body language and the posture gorgeous as well from like Paddy Considine, who's all like hunched and twisted, whereas Daemon, who's more upright, but also like facing his brother sympathetically. And, the hair and stuff looks similar. It's really gorgeous. It's like, Daemon, do you want to become like me?
Yeah.
And the answer surely is no. Do you think this is Daemon's last vision?
I would love to see Willem Blackwood next episode, but this sort of does put a bookend on his journey.
Yeah, Willem Blackwood would be funny.
And Rhea Royce, but I think Daemon's forgotten that he had a first wife.
Yeah, I genuinely think that the head without a fish without a head line was the closest we'll get to an acknowledgement of Rhea Royce this season.
And that was like you that was in your head. Like that wasn't connected.
I might be the one person who made that connection. It might be that the writer's room didn't. I hope that the goat winks at Daemon before he leaves. Do you think Daemon and Alice are going to make out?
I sort of hope not.
Yeah. We've got to get some more insight into what the hell Alice wants, though. Like, I imagine she'll probably say some, like, cryptic shit about destiny. Like, remember that Alice said that Daemon's going to die here.
Yeah.
So, like, something's going on, So, there's got to be some final twist before he leaves, I reckon. If he ever leaves. Whoa.
Ah. So, we just heard Viserys saying that the crown crushes all who wear it, and then we cut to Aegon.
Right, yeah, great point. Yeah. Power is destroying him.
Yeah. Who's learning how to walk again, except it turns out it's really hard when your body doesn't work and it hurts to breathe. And the stick you gave him isn't strong enough.
I got so angry that the cane snapped. They couldn't give him a metal walking stick? Why are they giving him this balsa wood walking stick?
Well, Larys wants to keep Aegon's efforts to rehabilitate himself secret, so maybe he's just given him like Larys's backup cane.
I heard the snap and I'm like, was that his other leg?
Wow.
Did it just snap like a Twix?
I just have to point out that Tom Glencarney is incredible.
It is incredible. I did notice that Tom couldn't quite decide which one of his legs was the broken one when he was hobbling around.
I think both of them. Well, they're both in serious pain, right? Because he just fell over and they have bones on both of them.
Yeah. I did find the performance great though. Like when he's like lying on the bed and he's like shivering, like juddering with the pain, I thought was pretty amazing. I find that the burn face thing is like, I mean, it must be a really hard thing to do in the prosthetics and stuff. But it always looks like more bulky as opposed to less bulky. Like the burn prosthetic always makes it look like they have more skin than they did before they got burned.
Well, I mean, that is the physicality of makeup.
Yeah, because it's that or like green screen it, I guess. And yeah, it's tricky to do, I guess.
And I think it being like a real effect is preferable to it being entirely CG.
Well, yeah, I was really curious from the start, like how far are they going to go with the burns? Because Tom Glencarny needs to act, and he can't act if most of his face is missing. Because like the books are not super clear about like exactly how burned he is, but like most of his body is burned in the books. I get the sense that it's more than just what we see on Hot D. But yeah, it looks appropriately grisly, and I think that it works.
Laris and Orwell sort of weekend at Bernie's Aegon back to bed.
Yep. Isn't it interesting that like these are the people who are helping Aegon, not his mother. His mother Alison is not here. His brother Aemond is not here.
His wife,
his sister wife Helena is not here. The people who are helping him are motherfucking Laris Strong, like foot fucker, rat spy, spooky ooky dude, and Orwell who would rather be anywhere else and just wants to like put poultices on things.
I like to read and apply poultices.
These are who Aegon has to get him through the most physically and emotionally painful time in his life. Jesus Christ, dude. Fuck.
God, it sucks.
It's just so... And also, like, you know, Aegon was a hedonist. He loved wine, he loved sex, he loved depravity, he loved... And all of those things seem off the table now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, sensual pleasure of any kind is not available to him because he hasn't got skin anymore. And it's like...
touching stuff hurts, and it turns out that you're always touching stuff. Air is stuff.
Yeah.
That counts.
You never realize how much touching you do until you don't have skin.
Laris chides Orwell for for pushing Aegon too hard when Laris told Orwell to push Aegon this hard.
Yeah, well, I mean, Laris says you should be more cautious, but is he saying be more cautious about Aegon not falling, or is he saying be cautious about don't let people see that we are trying to speed run occupational therapy?
Yeah, it's the secrecy of the rehabilitation because he doesn't want Aemond to know that we're teaching Aegon how to walk.
And I love that Orwell, he has like these three competing desires. Like one, he wants to do his job and heal Aegon. Two, Prince Regent Aemond ordered him to drug Aegon and not let him recover.
Yeah.
Three, Laris Strong gives him the opposite order, which is to make him walk and recover as soon as possible. Those three things are completely incompatible.
You also forgot the fourth and probably most important desire of Orwell's is to stay alive.
Yes.
So that's the thing that's sort of weighing up against those other motivations.
And it's so funny that like he's the Grand Maester. Like in theory, he's like the most learned guy in the realm. He's like the representative of the Citadel. And this is what he's doing.
My job is to hold a guy up while he hobbles.
This like crispy hobbling rapist who he has to like shoulder carry to his bed and like wipe his ass. It's like this is what his career trajectory has been. Jesus Christ.
Don't become a mate. Don't go to university.
He hasn't even paid off his student loans. So Alan, the other bastard son of Corlys, he does a lot of work with his eyebrows, does Abubakar.
Well, he can't work with his hair.
How does one act with their hair?
You ever watched Rowan Atkinson? He acts with his entire head.
My goodness. So it's another doc conversation between Corlys and Alan.
Oh, this one at least has some new content.
It does. I like how they both have Velaryon sigils on their
Corlys
chests.
is bigger.
Yeah. This is Corlys dressing down. This is like the least fancy outfit that he has. It seems the Velaryons all have a propensity for belts. Fairly large, ostentatious belts going on here.
It's important stuff at sea.
When I saw these like matching costumes in promo images, I thought like, does this mean that Corlys is now acknowledging Alan? But no, they're just wearing different outfits. Yet. Yeah. So
this is just the first mate outfit.
Corlys orders Alan to bring a message to Alinda Massey telling her to gather the bastards so that the bastards will get on Alan's boat to go to King's Landing. Is that correct?
Yeah, but he doesn't say Elinda Massey. He says, you'll find out who you're supposed to give it to.
This show often does these sort of mystery things where it doesn't explain what's going on and you sort of have to figure it out contextually, which is something that the books also do constantly, but I'm sure it confuses some viewers.
Yeah.
It confuses me sometimes.
Also, Corlys tells Alan that his brother is now a dragon rider.
Yeah,
and he's like, hey, are you interested in claiming a dragon? Would you like to ride Silverwing, my son?
Corlys definitely buries the lead here. So do you think, like, is Corlys just doing this out of ambition? Like, does he just want another son to have a dragon for the power of his house? Or is he doing it because he thinks Alan will like the idea when Alan has shot down every opportunity for advancement that Corlys has ever offered him?
In some sense, it could be a test.
A test of what?
What Alan wants. Because if Alan says, "Oh, a dragon, yeah, I'll do that," then Corlys knows that that's not it, because Baylor told him, and he probably believes now that Driftmark needs to pass the Salton Sea, and that's precisely what Alan says he is. This confirms to Corlys that Alan is his future.
I think that's a great interpretation. Like, Alan really is just what he says on the tin. Like, he really just truly, honestly is a sailor, and that's what he wants to be. And rejecting a dragon proves that beyond doubt. So yeah, I agree. And yeah, Corlys does say that the Valerians are not dragon lords, which does suggest that
Corlys believes that he doesn't have dragon blood.
Yeah, and you'd think that he would know. So,
but he does speculate that Alan and Adam's mother, who appears to be the same person, by the way, we previously speculated that they have separate mothers, whereas it turns out that brothers can just have different colored hair.
Who would have thought? Nature is a thing of mysterious words.
Yeah, I once knew a horse who was actually a Lannister lordling. Anyway, so Corlys speculates that maybe your mum was a dragon seed. I don't fucking know, though.
Was she blonde? Like, it's kind of a weird thing to say. I mean, I guess, like, Driftmark is near Dragonstone, so there's probably some Targaryen bastard dragon seeds on Driftmark, so, like, I guess it's kind of a reasonable thing. But I don't know, was she platinum blonde or not? Like, I feel like that's relevant.
Yeah, well, I mean, there were 3 dark-haired people on Dragonstone who were half Targaryen, Jace, Luke, and Josh. So, like, having blonde hair isn't the only way you can definitely be a Targaryen, like, have dragon blood, right?
I feel like by the time of, say, like, Game of Thrones, like 300 years after the conquest and some, like, 400 years after the Targaryen came, I feel like most folks would have some Targaryen blood in the area by now, you know?
Like, unless they were super strict, but there's no way, because as has been said many times, the Targaryen princelings just go around fucking anything that moves.
Yeah, and they have the
Freddie
bastards,
Mercury
and
strategy.
then the bastards have bastards, and then the bastards have bastards, and before you know it, everyone is 128th Targaryen.
It's really funny to me that Rennifer Longwaters is like, and I'm a long distant descendant of the Targaryens, when in, like, realistically, there should be, like, 10% of the population should be descendant from Targaryens, right?
Yeah, there are, like, real people now who claim descent from Henry VIII, and it's like, mate, like,
Most Europeans.
Yeah, you are, like, a rounding error more Henry VIII than I am, you know? Like, that the math just doesn't work out. It's just not meaningful. So.
Does that mean that you're the one true king of England?
Well, don't go telling anyone. You'll have to buy me a drink. I like how Ulf... I like the revelation that Ulf has been using his, like, claim to Targaryen heritage exclusively to get free alcohol and for no other reason. He's been risking treason.
That's exactly what we were speculating.
Yeah.
So, like, that's another check to us.
Yeah, we'll talk about it, but, like, I feel like we should question whether Ulf is really Balon's son.
Oh yeah, God, it's so fun though. I love Ulf.
Because in the same way that, like, this show is questioning, should only men rule? Maybe women should as well. Should, you know, only true-born people rule, or should bastards rule as well? It's also that thing of, like, should only Targaryen-blooded people ride dragons, or should other people ride dragons as well? Like, it's all about questioning those, like, social constructs. And
should only qualified people work in medical fields, or should anyone be able to? Why can't I conduct surgery on myself in the tub?
Why can't I wield a poultice willy-nilly?
Is a poultice really something you wield? Ha! On guard!
Well, you should see how I use a poultice. Once you've seen how I use a poultice. So, yeah, I like this distinction between Alan and Adam. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that this is different to the books, because in the books, Alan does try to claim a dragon. And it's actually a like kind of interesting event when he does, but I'm fairly sure that they are not doing that in Hot D by the looks of it.
Seems the case to me also.
Yeah, but it does make a distinction between the two. I guess the question is like, what are they doing with Alan now? Like, what does Alan do? Is he just going to be like Corliss's mate for now? Is that
their best buds from now on?
Like, yeah, like what is their relationship going to be like is an interesting question.
Yeah. In some sense, Alan's like the one person who's like Corliss because everyone's becoming a dragon rider and abandoning their old past when like Alan's just like, yep, I'm a sailor. I like sailing.
Yeah, but he doesn't have that like unhinged ambition that Corliss
True.
must have in order to have done his voyages.
Well, maybe Alan will gain that once his father acknowledges him.
Yeah, I would love to see like confidence and like balliness blossom from Alan.
We're in the Vale. I love Amanda Collins' outfit here.
Is that a cape? Like, what is that?
It honestly, like, are we in Dune from this shot?
Yeah, it's actually crazy. It's like blue on the front and like pale, creamy golden on the back. It's wonderful. It's ethereal.
She's sort of cooking. Yeah, she is ethereal. She's like some sort of angel.
And she's cross.
Yeah, you better fucking leave my house.
She has those like tear-like earrings, like the tears
of
Lissa.
They're also sort of hearts. Cute. So she does look cross, but she's also sort of like beaming determination into Rhaena, I think.
Yeah, is it almost like a I believe in you type thing?
Yeah.
Do you think Jane knows that Rhaena is just going to go claim a dragon instead of going to Pentos? But I mean, Rhaena does wait until Jane turns away before Rhaena runs off into the woods.
And no one turns around to make sure she's following them.
she has got a cute travel bag like her father Damon, so I guess she has some hard cheese and biscuits.
That's the one thing that Damon taught her.
Yeah, it's probably his bag, yeah. I do find it really funny how Jane was like, I'm giving 6 adequate men to protect you. And those 6 adequate men don't even notice when like Princess Rhaena Targaryen runs off into the woods instead of going with them. Is she a princess? I don't think she's referred to as a princess.
Well, Damon is the king, so yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess she should be a princess. And yeah, so baby Aegon and little Viserys are going along with little dragon Stormcloud to Pentos.
Do they have the eggs as well? I think they do.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So Rhaena's sort of abandoning the eggs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's had an egg that didn't hatch for her for years.
Yeah.
So
in the book, Rhaena prays nightly for the eggs to hatch. Oh, her outfit, by the way, I just thought
it's also
need to
stunning.
point that out. She looks like well dressed for the weather.
Yeah, but she also looks like a badass Targaryen. I mean, look at those like flamey, wingy shapes on the front as well.
It's pretty sick.
Yeah, no, all of the like costumes and props and sets and stuff I've been very happy with in this show. So yeah, she is. And the other thing is that like she has just been hanging out with Stormcloud and Tyraxes, who are dragons who hatched and are young and are useless.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to settle for that.
She doesn't want a useless dragon. Rhaena, like the one thing we know about Rhaena, like Adam, is she wants to be useful. She wants people to respect her. She wants power onto her own right.
So she wants a grown-ass dragon like the dragon who they discovered is in the Vale.
And I'm excited for her. I hope she acquires that power. Good for you, Rhaena.
Yeah, we shall see how it goes. And it is a change from the books.
And that will be the thing we talk about in the spoiler zone for an hour, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, emotions will run hot.
Alicent on her little camping trip.
Yeah, she's getting some fresh air. She's touching some grass.
You love to see it.
Rickard is up to his wrists in blood. Is he gutting a rabbit for dinner or something?
He's prepping dinner, yeah.
It's really funny that like Kingsguard have the sacred duty of guarding the king from assassins and also building tents and gutting rabbits for the queen. That's quite fun.
Well, he's not wearing the cloak here. He's not wearing his armor. He also is on a camping trip, right?
Yeah, he's got to be enjoying this on some level as well, right? I mean, he doesn't
look like it.
Yeah, he doesn't appear to be enjoying it, but it's like, come on, Ricky, like you're getting out of town.
I know this guy. He sort of has the face where it's like, does he enjoy anything?
He's got a great face.
I'm enjoying his face. I don't know the actor.
This is the first time you haven't known the actor.
My God, I've known all of the actors.
Well, you can just Google it now and then you
No,
can...
I out of shame, I refuse. I'll put it on screen though.
Yeah, well, I enjoy him. He does seem eager to just get back to the city. He just doesn't quite know what the script is in this circumstance. Maybe he's a little scared about what Allison's going to do, because Allison is acting weird.
We were all scared that she was going to do something.
Yeah, and this is weird behavior from the Queen, and it's uncharacteristic behavior.
And she's just saying, I don't know if I will ever go back to King's Landing.
Yeah. Yeah, she's basically saying, hey, Ricky, we live in the woods now. And he's like, oh.
I sort of liked the castle.
I liked her feather bed. So,
Not that the Kingsguard appear to sleep ever.
And of course, this contrasts with Rhaenyra and Kristen's fun adventure in the woods when they got attacked by the boar. And that
was also in the Kingswood, by the way. We're in the Kingswood.
Yeah.
Is Alicent going to find that boar's descendants?
Hell yeah. When's the last time Alicent left the city?
Oh, God.
Was it the hunt?
It may have been that hunt.
It was
Driftmark.
Driftmark.
Lena's funeral.
Driftmark. Yeah. So, yeah, apart from a funeral outing, this is the freshest air she's got.
Where she tried to murder an 11-year-old.
This is a very short scene. A lot of very weird short scenes. The Rhaena scene is like less than a minute. This Alicent scene is like less than a minute. It's kind of crazy. Hey, look, it's this scene. Jace is angry.
The problem is we already talked about it.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
We sort of, I think, dug into everything we needed to. Oh, yeah. I do like that Jace's justification for Stefan being the one to claim Sea Smoke is, but he was the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. He was highborn. He was the heir to the Dunfort. Like, he was an important guy in my eyes in the feudalistic system. The dragon must have appreciated that.
Yeah, that is a funny thing that comes up a few times, is the idea that dragons must respect the social ranks made up by humans. Of course, the dragon knows the difference between a Lord Commander and a Lord Paramount and a Baron and a Duke. And it's
whereas when you put Hugh, who just like wants in front of Vermithor.
Or fucking Ulf. Like, clearly they don't care that much.
Some stooge in front of a dragon. It doesn't matter.
And yet the Dragon Keepers care about all of that a lot.
Yeah. Are they wrong?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Like, the Dragon Keepers said to Rhaenyra that the dragons made their will clear. They rejected Stefan, so therefore you should not be...
but then they claimed Adam.
Yeah. So, yeah, what are the Dragon Keepers going to say? Like, the dragons are wrong on that? The gods are wrong?
Jace also says that Stefan was heir to the Dunfort.
Well, he was heir to the Dunfort.
Yes. The active word is was.
Yeah, yeah.
At people online who were saying that Ryan Condal is a hack fraud for putting that line into the episode.
Jace is only wearing 2 belts, which is not quite as impressive as...
Yeah, this is why he's not confident in his legitimate claim to Rhaenyra's succession, because he only owns 2 belts.
And yeah, I think we talked about how like Jace using the word mongrels to refer to like half Valyrian, half Targaryen bastards is so wonderful and like self-hating, because he himself is a kind of a mongrel and he has to act superior to them and he's denying who he is, and there's so many layers there.
I would love to see Jace talk about his uncle Larys. That would be really interesting.
And his possible half-aunt Alice.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That'd be so weird.
Yeah, to see them in a room together.
His great grunkle Simon.
Oh my God, that would be a great conversation. Wouldn't it be great if Jace just said, you know what, dragon riding, thrones, it ain't for me.
I'm strong.
I'm going to
I'm into the old gods. I like weirwoods.
I'm going to drink potions with Auntie Alice.
I'm going to learn how to warg owls.
I'm going to pet the goat. I'm going to meet the green men. Like, that might be a better life.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about things that happen in the trailer, we see Cyrax and Sea Smoke flying to Harrenhal. So maybe Jace does go to Harrenhal. Maybe Jace is coming there too. That'd be fun.
That'd be grouse.
Or maybe he stays on Dragonstone like he has for this entire season.
Yeah, I would like Jace to be able to touch some grass at some point as well. So obviously one of the other concerns is that Jace has dark hair. And in most people's eyes, dragon riders have silver hair. And there was a little thing called the Blackfire Rebellions when everyone...
you say was, there will be.
There will be.
That hasn't happened yet.
I'll do a Helena. There will be the Blackfire Rebellions. It's like decades and decades from now. When a king is rejected and rebelled against because he has dark hair and he doesn't look like a Targaryen, and people accuse him of being a bastard, much like Jace. And instead, they support Daemon Blackfire, who is this silver-haired Chad with 8-pack and a whole lot of, and he doesn't like foreigners or women, and everyone rallies to him.
Because he's going to make Westeros great again.
Yeah, and so
he's going to build a wall between Stormlands and Dawn.
And make Dawn pay for it. And Jace is rightly concerned that he might face similar opposition when he takes the throne after his mum, Queen Rhaenyra. He doesn't have the blonde hair. And if there are other bastards who have the silver hair and who have dragons, then what if people prefer them to him? What if the whole feudal order comes crashing down? Mum. Like, that's what's hilarious is that, like, it's not only a very, like, real and deep and, like, practical political conversation.
It's also a teenage boy questioning his mum's decisions. Like, you didn't think about me, mum.
It's also Jace, like, finally showing some hurt that you brought me into this world compromised. You brought me into this world in a world where I cannot acknowledge my father, Harwin. You
stopped me from grieving his death, his terrible, gruesome death.
It's this existentially horrifying situation
How dare you do this to me?
The child blames the parent for bringing them into existence, into this world, and it's like so.
I mean, put your hand up if you've ever done that.
Yeah, it's fucking rough, man. It's rough.
Did the conqueror's dream foretell that? I love that line because it's drawing into question, like, Rhaenyra's growing confidence in her own religious importance and, like, posing that against the actual reality that she's created.
Yeah, it's also like, hey, mom, like, I know you're excited about this new church that you've been going to, and you're excited about these, like, you know, prophecies that you read on Facebook. But, like, I feel like before you join the MLM and start selling all those nutrient bars, maybe you should question whether this ideology is healthy before you jump into it, you know? It's such a real concern that Jace has for his mom, and a very real tension between them based on his upbringing and his pain and his identity. And so it's delicious.
Yum, yum, yum. Yummy dialogue.
And Rhaenyra also reminds us of the fact that she doesn't want thousands of people to die, which is like, it's okay that I'm going to get dozens of civilians burned to death because it's to prevent thousands of people. So you see, Jace,
Tywin,
there's this thing called the trolley problem where there's a speeding dragon, and do you pull the lever so that only 64 people in Silver Dennis are going to die? So we say, it's like, man, it's like, whichever way, whatever your answer is, it's perverse. There's no clean answers to this messy situation.
The problem is that the trolley exists. The problem is that dragons exist and humans are trying to harness their power. And that's the problem.
And that's what Vizzy T said in episode 1, was that the dragons are a power that humans cannot control. We should never have trifled with it.
You mean the show laid out its thesis in the first episode?
I know.
You mean that season 1, episode 1 of House of the Dragon is one of the greatest pieces of television I've ever watched?
It's a fantastic first episode.
God, I love it so much.
And every episode this season has started with the image of the dragon with the bleeding human head and the wings of fire and the blood sacrifice with the dagger, which is a little subtle hint. This is a subtle reference to the fact that maybe making a blood pact with ancient dragon lizard destructive demons and stealing the power of fire from the gods was maybe a bad thing.
Oh, but Daenerys looks so pretty on top of Drogon.
Google Gorgosos and you'll know what I'm talking about, homies.
Google Gorgosos.
Yeah. So, Jace has very legitimate political and emotional concerns.
He's never directly brought up that his dad was Harwin Strong before.
Yeah, no, they've never been this real before, and Rhaenyra's feeling it, and it hits Rhaenyra like a truck, and she has the opportunity to side with her son and prioritize her son's emotional well-being, but she instead prioritizes the realm.
Yeah, she chooses to be a politician here rather than a person, and she's also a religious figure in this sense.
I mean, just like Emma Darcy was saying, that like Rhaenyra struggles to be both a ruler and a mother, and here she again chooses being a ruler, being a messiah, over being a mother. Jace presents her with the choice, and she chooses what the gods have lain before me, which is a rough fucking thing for a child to hear from their parent. Jesus Christ.
Hey, I'm going to not comfort you. I'm going to not secure your position in life because God is telling me not to.
And again, and it's the problem that she created for him. You should have fucked a blonde, Rhaenyra.
Do they not have like dye on dragons? Like, could she not just dye his hair?
If I was Jace, I would shave off all my hair and I would claim that a dragon burned my hair off.
I survived Dragonfire, and also I'm a Targaryen prince.
Yeah, I'm the unburned. I was doused in flame and it only removed my hair. That's
I'm
what
pretty
Jace should
epic,
do.
it turns out.
Like a Boubacar. Like
But the
Alan.
problem, of course, is that when Jason, Luke, and Joff were born, they were in King's Landing and Alicent was there. So they couldn't just like dye the hair and hide it.
Yeah.
There was no hiding their actual existence.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that the reverberations of those decisions in season 1 are still being felt so keenly, as they should be, as is the entire point of this
In
story.
episode 3, Harwin looked at Rhaenyra dragging a boar corpse through a camp, and here we are.
Yeah, right?
It's like the meme of the dominoes falling. You get it.
Yeah. Interaction between Alan and Mazzaria, not on my bingo card.
Jeez.
I wonder if they could, because like, you know, Alan's the ship guy, which is smuggling adjacent, and Mazzaria is the information person, and you know, they could have things to do together in the future. Do you think that Mazzaria is attracted to men as well as women?
I don't know if is Mazzaria I think her attraction is to like
Hot people.
vibe.
Yeah, vibes based.
Not even hot people, just people she like believes in, trusts.
And I think that the list of those people is
Extraordinarily
one
low, yeah.
person long. Yeah.
So we see the chain of information
Yep.
traveling to King's Landing and into random places.
Using fish, which again is a subtle nod to Rhea Royce. Alicent was called the Queen of Fishes, which
This
means
is a
that she
subtle shaking of the head to Rhea Royce.
Rhea Royce walked into Alicent.
What are you talking about?
I'm just free associating, man. So Alinda Massey gets the message and carries out the plan. She gathers up the dragon seeds.
She's not hiding who she is, which is interesting. Like, she's wearing the Massey sigil.
I think it's like purely like a visual stylistic choice, because it doesn't make any sense to wear a bright red cloak when you're on a secret mission. Like what is Laris
She's hiding
doing?
in plain sight.
What is Laris
No, you see,
doing
Laris
right now?
wants this to happen because
I feel like we need some kind of recognition or acknowledgement or resolution of what the hell Laris is doing as Master of Whisperers.
because he seems like simultaneously the most powerful and like most incompetent person to ever have that role.
In season 1, he seemed to know everything all the time, but now he seems completely unable to detect or predict or stop the riot, unable to stop Rhaenyra entering then leaving King's Landing,
Anyway,
unable to stop Alinda gathering up literal boatloads of civilians and spreading the word to all these civilians and making them leave. The Master of Whisperers doesn't have any spies to notice that, really?
The question is this inability or is it willingness?
Yes, the question is
And
like...
I'm sort of pining for an answer at this point.
Yeah, I think we need an answer one way or the other. I will be disappointed if they don't address that one way or the other.
We might be waiting a while for that one, though.
So I guess Mazzaria has like a little black book of every Targaryen prince who's ever had sex with anyone in one of her brothels and like who the kids are. And she's given like a list of names. And Ulf is on the list, I guess. I guess that's what's happened.
Maybe, or maybe he just catches wind because his mates Muja and Clay peer pressure him into dying to dragon flame.
But we see this gold cloak
Yeah.
walking into the pub.
And that is the same place. That is Sylvie's brothel.
Wait, that's Sylvie's brothel?
Yeah. It's the same door in episode 9.
You are a door master. My
That's how I recognize the door that the Freys were eating on them.
If that door comes back, I need the door lore. God damn.
Need to exhaust the door law.
So his buddies tell Ulf
There's
that
no flaw to the door law so far.
it's flawless door lore. I abhor the paucity of door lore. I want more. So Ulf says, "Oh, I couldn't possibly go and ride a dragon because of my gummy leg
I busted
and
my ankle
my
running.
loose ear and my."
I would have gone pro, but my injury.
So it really seems that all Ulf actually wants out of life is to just keep drinking in this pub. I mean,
free beer.
I think part of him deep down must want more, or else Silverwing wouldn't have accepted him. Like, I feel like you've got to need some ambition to be a dragon rider.
Or maybe Silverwing just works differently and she thought he was funny or something like that.
Yeah, or she smelled Vermithor on him. All spark and no tinder.
I like Clay. I mean, I don't like his behavior. I don't like what he did to Diana in that one episode.
Well, now that Ulf and Hugh have left King's Landing, it would be cool to follow Clay and Koja as like people.
This character's name is Muja.
Muja. I'm thinking of Koja. I think Koja is
Mo. The Summer Islander in the books.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Muja. It would be cool to like check in with these characters, and if things happen in King's Landing, it'd be cool to see them affected by it.
I would love to see a scene of these two guys in the pub sort of missing their old mate. Like, oh, why did we tell him to go? I liked him.
Yeah. Or, but we don't have to buy him drinks all the time. Now we've got more money. I mean, there's not a lot of money and food around, so,
I do love that he's peer pressured into going.
Yeah, he does not want to do this at all, but he just goes along with it. It's pretty funny.
There's also the threat of violence. Like, if he doesn't go, that means he doesn't actually think he's a Targaryen bastard, which means that we have to, like, hurt him because he's been scamming us for decades.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like everyone here is going along with it kind of jokingly. Like, I don't think that they really believe that he's gonna be a dragon rider or would be a good dragon rider or anything. I think it's mostly a joke to them. But this also is like a nigh treasonous. I mean, it is treason to go to Rhaenyra. So like, this is a dangerous thing that they are jokingly, happily yelling about. Which again, Larys, what the hell are you doing, buddy? What are you doing, Larys?
Does he let this happen? Why does he want more dragons does he want to destroy the dragons? Is he the Grand Maester conspiracy?
Well, the argument could be that Larys like secretly expects Rhaenyra to defeat the Greens and wants to like switch sides and wants to say, I was helping you all along, Rhaenyra, so make me your rat whisperer, whatever the hell it is that Larys wants. Let me see your feet, Rhaenyra, because I was with you all along. That is a plausible theory on why Larys might let Rhaenyra do all these shenanigans in his city.
Your Grace, I have found 100 cats.
I hope we see the cats at some point. I hope if Otto returns, he's going to literally bring 100 cats with him.
He's cradling them in his shirt.
Sorry, I wasn't replying to your messages. I was patting these kittens.
Busy holding these kittens.
I was choosing the one.
This one's name is Cookie. We have Muffin, Cupcake. This one is Aegon.
Keep going. Those are great names.
This one is Feckless, Insolent Pup.
This one's black, even though his mother is white, and its father is a tortoise shell.
I'm trying not to think about that.
Nature is a thing.
The
of
father can't be
mysterious
tortoise
work.
shell. That's exclusive to female cats. You don't know anything about cat genetics.
I was fishing for that. I wasn't fishing for
always
that.
bait by taxonomy facts.
I just know that if I just say things wrong enough that you will jump in and do a taxonomy monologue.
The fundamental theorem of the internet is if you want to find something out, just say an incorrect thing and then someone will tell you.
That literally is all of social media now. Like, I feel like I hate I don't do social media anymore because every algorithm, all the things that it shows you are things that are calculated as bait to make people comment at it, which is garbage. It's just garbage. Hey, look, it's Hugh.
It is Hugh. I really enjoy Hugh in this episode. He is like seething, molding ? Over his dead daughter.
I like how they've spent quite a small amount of time on Hugh, but they've given him a pretty dramatic and interesting and believable arc.
Yeah.
Like, he was like...
I really love what they've done with him this season.
Like, he was a fan of King Aegon. He believed in King Aegon. And he wanted to he built the Scorpions, which now may be used against him.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be ironic if he
fun.
got killed by one of the Scorpions he built? And so he went from a King Aegon believer and for his daughter, and then the food and the riot, and his daughter's dead, and his wife wants to go to Tumbleton, and now he's a dragon rider serving Queen Rhaenyra
he
on
defects to
Dragonstone.
the claimant that he wasn't supporting.
Yeah, it's a cool little arc. The dog is barking outside.
Oh, that's the cheese dog.
Or is it the other dog?
What other dog?
There's two dogs.
Oh, yeah. No, there's one dog.
The second dog has blue eyes. Blue eyes. I've always had blue eyes. This could be a third dog.
7 L's.
This could be a third dog.
I can't keep track of 3 dogs.
I think it's the same
80
dog.
Targaryen bastards, 3 dogs.
They recast the dog. So, Kat wants to just live a humble life, but Hugh is
Being
filled-
humble in Tumbleton.
Humbleton, indeed. And Hugh is not humble, Hugh, and he decides he wants to act because his daughter is dead and he feels like he failed and he feels like he needs to take action and there's fire and he needs to
Yeah. If he continues
something.
not doing things, if he doesn't take this opportunity from the gods, then his life will continue to deteriorate.
Yeah.
And so he tells his wife that my mum was a Targaryen, actually,
She worked in a pleasure house. She was granted more freedom than most.
because rich men pay more to fuck a woman with silver hair. A lot of people are taking this to interpret that Hugh is saying his mother is Sarah Targaryen, who is a daughter of Jaehaerys, and he says her brother's boys Viserys and Daemon, and Sarah's brother was Baelon, the father of Viserys and Daemon. So that does scan. But I also think it's plausible that Jaehaerys had a bastard, and that bastard is Hugh's mother. Jaehaerys might have had a few bastards. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true, and I think that's a good objection. But I feel like...
Especially because Sarah, wasn't in King's Landing while she was a, sex... a pleasure house queen.
a sex merchant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is one of the interesting questions, is that if Sarah is Hugh's mother, did Hugh grow up in Lys or
Yeah.
Volantis and then move to King's Landing?
I mean, he doesn't sound foreign at all to King's Landing.
Yeah, you'd think that he would have a Lys accent or something, but he seems very salt of the earth, flea bottom type dude, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess it could have been someone other than Sarah Targaryen, but I feel like that's definitely what the showrunners are sort of fishing for.
I don't know. I disagree with the definitely in that sentence that you just said.
Yeah, fair enough.
Unfair enough, Mr. Schwift, because here's an interview with Hugh's actor, Kieran Bew, where it really sounds like Ryan Condal indicated to Kieran that Sarah Targaryen is Hugh's mother. So there's that.
One of the things in the books is that some of Sarah's bastards made claims at the Great Council at Harrenhal, which we saw in season 1, episode 1.
Yeah. Is Hugh too young to be Sarah's bastard?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out the age.
I'm more on the side that it's another child of Jaehaerys's, because I also like the idea that Jaehaerys, who had this decades-long relationship with his sister wife Alysanne, and it was rocky, but they keep going back to each other, even though they have big problems across their relationship, right? I like the idea that he was not faithful.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be nice if there was some of the characters who were. It'd be nice if there were a few Targaryen men who were faithful, but yeah, I agree that could be something that works for Jaehaerys' character.
Viserys appears to have been faithful.
Was marrying Alicent an act of faith?
It was an act of marriage.
Really? Do you think that Hugh was one of the bastards who made a claim at the Harrenhal Council?
No.
Be funny if he was.
I think that humble blacksmith, first of all, the council at Harrenhal was 30 years ago, and Hugh would have been how old? Kieran Bew is 43 years old. So Hugh's probably in his early 40s as well. Do you think that a random 11-year-old kid from Flea Bottom showing up and I don't see the vision.
Little Huey decked out in Lysine finery.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. To become this man that we see before us right now, I doubt that that's the same guy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's...
Although the idea that Sarah's son would claim Vermithor is very funny.
Yeah.
Because Jaehaerys hated Sarah for her behavior.
Yeah. Well, and he also felt a lot of regret at the breakdown of their relationship.
Yeah.
And in his dying days, he had these delusions that Sarah had returned to him. Which reminds me of Hoster's delusions about Lysa and the Tansy and There's a lot of regretful deathbed confessions from some of George's characters. Yeah.
I mean, and Viserys thinks that he's talking to Rhaenyra when he's talking to Alicent on his deathbed.
Yeah, it turns out when you give people inherited power that they keep until they die, having doddery old people mumbling their way through commandments which shake kingdoms can be dangerous. So Hugh says that he was ashamed of his mother who worked in a brothel, and that Hugh, in contrast, wanted to make his way with his own hands. Is he suggesting that his mother, Sarah, did not work with her hands? Because I'm certain that she did.
I'm certain that she did. She worked with all sorts of body parts.
Are there any like main characters in A Song of Ice and Fire who are like the children of sex workers? Like there's Shatea, the child of Alayeya.
Right. Not quite scratching what a main character is.
She's probably the most prominent child of a sex worker.
I mean, Jon Snow is the son of some random sex worker in the Riverlands.
Yeah, that's one of Jon's insecurities, is that his mother may have been a, quote, whore. And I guess Hugh is feeling that same insecurity. And I think it's this sort of similar thing to what Jace is experiencing, where it's like the circumstances of my birth are somehow inherently shameful in the eyes of this world, and like how the hell do I deal with that?
By claiming a fuck-ass dragon.
Yeah, that's what all men do to deal with their insecurities, is to ride a nuke. And yeah,
to befriend a nuclear bomb.
And it's only now that their daughter has died that Hugh tells Kat, his wife, the truth about his parentage. I wonder how she feels about that. Does it feel like,
Is this a betrayal that he kept this truth from her for so long?
He kept a secret from her. And there's this shot of their hands. They're not holding hands. They're not together. They're apart when they say that.
And of course, Hugh abandons Kat to go to Dragonstone.
So yeah, what is their relationship now? And also,
hopefully she just somehow leaves the city and goes to Tumbleton. I hope that she finds her brother.
Yeah. Hugh says, if I had a dragon, we would never want again, and you could be a lady.
I don't want to be a lady. I wanted to be a wizard.
So hang on, the dragon seeds think that they're going to get
lands,
status and lands and wealth.
This will be my way into the feudal structure, whereas Jace is thinking of it as like, this is going to destroy the feudal structure.
Yeah, all the different interpretations that these different characters have.
The Dragon Lord's like, this is going to destroy religion. Sorry, the Dragon Keepers.
Yeah. All these different interpretations of what it means socially and politically and religiously.
Which is great. I love that exploration of the implication of this.
Alan is wearing Rhaenyra's beanie from season 1.
Call me boy.
And Alicent is walking through the woods.
She's wandering through a meadow.
Fantastic just music video of her just vibing. I mean, that's just a shockingly beautiful shot, isn't it?
She's a shockingly beautiful person.
My goodness.
The shot of her hair going through the water is like, I would kill to have a L'Oreal commercial like that.
Yeah. No, I just love the contrast.
And then she paddles, she's just sort of like flipping about in the water. She's having a good time.
Yeah. Just floating. Just letting go of all the bullshit.
She certainly needed the moment of clarity.
Feeling apart, feeling at peace. What does the bird mean?
Freedom.
It's like a reminder that the outside world is out there.
Yeah.
It's possible to be apart. It's possible to be free. Unless Arel is in there.
Dun, dun, dun.
Time-traveling Arel. So Alicent is really upset that her life seems to have been a giant... embarrassing waste of time.
Weird, because most people take that really well.
Yeah. I can't believe she's just not going to Old Town. Like, maybe she'll go to Old Town because her one good son, Daeron, is there. Maybe she should just go to Old Town.
Will she be allowed to leave?
I mean, just go now with Ricky.
Yeah, true.
She's the queen. Or maybe she should go to Dragonstone and say, hey, Rhaenyra, sis, mistakes were made.
Yeah, maybe that's what's going through her head right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's processing the past. It must be hard to like keep on top of all the events going on when you're stuck in the same place where all the things happen.
I've seen comparisons to Ophelia in Hamlet, who is part of the royal family, and then her dad gets murdered and Hamlet rejects her, and Ophelia goes a bit mad and drowns, and is a bit of a similar mindset to what Alicent's in at the moment.
Are those friends of yours?
So it seems that Alicent decides to live. What will she do with her life, such as it is?
Yeah, I think that is what the bird means.
Yeah.
It's also, be afraid of things in the sky. There are dragons being claimed right now.
It's a convention for blonde people.
There are also some non-blonde people we see later on the plinth in the dragon claimy bit.
Yeah, you'd have to be fairly confident about your parentage to be a brunette who's saying, I am a Targaryen bastard.
I mean, Ulf's hair is like silvery white instead of this blondie stuff that the Targaryens in the show have. So I understand why he's not entirely sure about his own parentage.
Yeah. So some of these will be the children of a male Targaryen with a common woman. Some of them will be the children of a Targaryen and a random woman. And so I wonder what, they could be half Targaryen, quarter Targaryen, eighth Targaryen. I wonder when the silvery hair goes away.
Some of them will be descendants of Arianna Targaryen.
Oh, that's Arianna there.
Huh.
Do you think, there could be quite a lot of them who just are not Targaryen at all? Because,
Yes.
if you have...
if Ulf went and he's not sure, then yeah, plenty of people who aren't sure also, I might be a Targaryen, I'll go.
They can't test their DNA. I mean, in real life, there are lots of people who have stories about their relatives and who they were that may or may not be true. If you had a kid who was born blonde and, the dad ran off and you're like, well, what do I tell this kid about his parent? Of course you're going to say he was a prince and you have a destiny and you're special. Lots of parents would want to tell their children that.
Yeah.
So there could be lots of these people who think that they're a royal bastard when in actual fact they're just a rando.
And they've come here to die.
Yep.
The undercurrent of all of this is, if this doesn't go well, I'm dead. They have to know that, right?
What do common people believe about dragons?
Yeah.
The books talk about this. Common people believe all sorts of stupid things about dragons. The idiots, like Gildane writes in the books. So it's like, some of them probably think that, yeah, dragons just fart cotton candy and talk the common tongue and respond well to the Crocodile Dundee thing. And it's just easy to just chuck a saddle on them and you ride off into the sunset.
Anyone can do it.
They don't know what they're in for, is my point.
Did Alinda Massey tell them that they might die?
Yeah, I would love to know what that message said. What were they promised? I mean, a lot of them are probably
a dragon.
How many of these people were just starving and wanted a hot meal and hoped that claiming that they were a Targaryen might give them a hot meal,
Little did they know that they would become the hot meal.
I like how the Dragon Keeper's face is burned.
Just a little bit.
I love this line. The Dragon Keeper says that the dragons are the last magic of old Valyria in this sad world. It's oh, you're a romantic. You're a George Martin.
Yeah.
That's what George Martin believes. It's that feeling of beauty and fantasy and imagination and dreams.
Dead.
And we see the Dragon Keepers as these wizened, gritty, suiciding, dragon blade dagger, dragon poop scooping, all business, knuckle bones, meat and nails.
You've described enough.
I've described enough. But they're softies who just love the beautiful dragons.
They're pining for a greater time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they're interested in reconstructing and romanticizing a past that may not have even existed the way they think it does.
It's kind of an embarrassing LARP because Valyria blew up 200 years ago and they can't resurrect it. It will never exist again. And it's a good thing that it will never exist again because it was a slave empire.
Sucked.
Yeah. So it's kind of embarrassing to be worshipping the altar of these long dead dragon
But it's their
Nazis.
religion.
Yeah. Yeah. It's of course it's a religion. Of course someone would worship shit like that. And of course they would object to letting their gods be ridden by random bastards. So
The Dragon Keepers really sort of are the last strong vestige of Valyrian culture because we hear that from the showrunner that the elder Dragon Keepers forego speaking the common tongue. They don't engage in Andal culture at all.
yeah. Whereas the Targaryens have, to varying degrees, been assimilated by Westeros and have taken on, like they've accepted the faith to a smaller or larger extent, and they've intermarried with other houses to a larger or smaller extent.
They mostly speak the common tongue.
Yeah. Yeah. So they kind of are Westerosi, whether they like it or not. Whereas the Dragon Keepers are this weird insular cult. They must be kind of incestuous because, like, where do they recruit from?
They put up flyers around the towns of Dragonstone.
Do you like getting burned by lizards?
Do you like scooping flaming poop?
Yeah. We've got a job offer for you. Anyone who faces a dragon will be transformed. Whoa. How will Ulf be transformed? How will Hugh and Adam be transformed?
Well, we see Ulf a little bit after he claims Silverwing, or Silverwing claims him, and he looks like he's just having the time of his life.
Yeah, he does.
But perhaps the transformation takes hold over time. Like, we cut from Aemond claiming Vhagar to 6 years later. So we don't know exactly how long or when that took.
It's so funny that Rhaenyra decides to toss them to the Bronze Fury first.
Well, you don't want to bother Silverwing. She's sleeping. She's having a nap.
How is Silverwing going to get any dragon riders if Vermithor ate them all first?
Well, hey, if you survive the Vermithor sesh, you're probably going to be fine for Silverwing.
Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting they don't talk about Grey Ghost or the Cannibal.
Well, they're wild. They're outside cats. No, they're not outside cats. They're feral cats. Seasmoke is an outside cat in that he comes in and out of home. Then there are the feral cats.
Yeah. No, that works.
And you can befriend a feral cat by feeding it.
Yeah.
Just like...
Dragons are just cats.
Oh, I opined on this because I had a joke about Taraxes walking around the painted table knocking all the markers off when they're planning their war shit.
It was really cute seeing Stormcloud sort of walking around like a little cat the other episode. I'd like to see... I want to see Taraxes.
It reminds me of Daenerys' dragons when they were young in season 2. They were really fun and cute.
Yeah, when Dorea was like feeding Drogon.
Yeah, and
snacks.
he's like...
Yeah, no, that was cool. They're so cute when they're little, and they're so awful when they go through puberty.
Like having a pet crocodile or a cat.
So we talked about how Rhaenyra's speech is quite vulnerable, quite open, quite honest. She's not being all authoritative. She's not talking about her own strength. She's mostly talking about what it will bring to the dragon seeds, which is quite nice. And then she summons Vermi, and it is very spooky, and you sense the power and the size and the age of this titanic beast.
And even Rhaenyra is nervous. The dragon queen herself.
And the way that she calms Vermithor is by growling and yelling at him, which is how Hugh claims Vermithor.
Yeah, this is how Vermithor responds.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Jaehaerys, like old man Jaehaerys, yelling at his dragon.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Like Vermithor is over in the corner grumbling about something, and Joe's like, shut up, you dumb dragon.
It's like knocking his walking stick.
Yeah.
I'm watching my programs.
They're both just crotchety old men hanging out. Oh, it'd be great.
Look at this scar on Vermithor's face that opens up when he...
Oh, that's fucking metal. That's gnarly.
That'd have to hurt, surely. It's almost like a cleft lip. Well, yeah, where the hell did he get that? Because Vermithor's never been in a real war apart from the Fourth Dornish War, which, I don't know, maybe a scorpion bolt grazed his face?
I don't know, judging from what we know about the cannibal eating other younger dragons, we know that there are just some dragons around.
Yeah, it's true.
So maybe he just gets into scraps with them.
Yeah, like dogs and cats fight each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess...
maybe Seasmoke did it. We don't know. Maybe Caraxes gave that to him.
No, I think that's legit. And there also are some mentions in the books of dragons getting into little scraps with each other, so... Which again, isn't it horrifying when your nukes in deep storage occasionally attack each other? Can you imagine that?
Honestly, I can imagine that line you just said being uttered in Tough or one of George's other sci-fi stories. Sometimes the nukes just fight each other and we have to deal with that.
Yeah, personifying power is what George does.
Vermithor's nostrils are large enough that you could live in them.
Oh, there's someone in there.
They're almost as large as Viserys' nostrils.
I love how Rhaenyra touches Vermithor. Vermithor closes his eye. Rhaenyra closes her eye. So
you can hear Vermithor sniff. He's smelling the Targaryen-ness.
There's a similar shot in season 1 with Daemon touching Caraxes, and they sort of do the psychic bond thing. I really liked how in season 1, when Rhaenyra was birthing the stillborn baby Visenya, she had those visions of Syrax, her dragon, which was like the most direct acknowledgement we've ever had of like the psychic bond experience before. And I hope that we might see more of it now that there's more dragon riders and new dragon riders. And yeah, I mean, goddamn, like look at, like she's just mind melded with an ancient titanic Godzilla beast. What has she witnessed? Like, look at the smile. Like, she's satisfied by what she finds within the mind of this beast. It's like, oh my God, she's communing with a god.
Yeah. And it's at this point that she says, all right, I'm done. And now you just have to deal with it. Oh my God. This is the coolest scene, isn't it?
Yeah. In terms of like what fantasy television has had anywhere near this level of just pure like badass majesty? And like this, I could talk forever about the sounds that these dragons make this episode.
The Foley artists have, they deserve more money than Matt Smith is getting.
Yeah, they are geniuses. I love what the sound designers have done.
I don't know where they began. Like, how do you even broach these sounds? They're incredible.
I'm starting to think they did more than just run some shit through Fruity Loops. Like, I think they might be on another level.
No, it's actually just you automate the reverb and it goes on from there.
I heard they just like fed some pasta through a paper shredder.
Yeah?
They just like got a vacuum cleaner and like slurped up some Jello and then played it backwards.
They actually just pissed off a cat and then slowed it down to like 0.4 times speed.
Yeah, they put a bunch of turtles in a cement mixer and it was the grumbling sound that Vermithor makes. So yeah, I think this scene's fucking great. And then we see this fella who is apparently Silver Dennis, who is a
you weren't making that up?
And he got an arm torn off by a dragon. And then as Dennis's sons struggled to staunch the wound, the cannibal descended on them, chased off the other dragon and devoured father and sons.
Wow.
But also, yeah, like he claims to be a bastard of Maegor the Cruel.
Yeah, this is nonsense.
Who died like 100 years ago? 90 years ago? Quite a lot of years ago.
A long time ago, yeah.
So Silver Dennis would have to be like at least 70 years old, I think, in that ballpark. God, Vermithor looks like he could just swallow Caraxes in one bite. And it must be the dragon who speaks.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And we all know how dragons speak.
In flame.
In scat. Vermithor just goes...
I thought you meant the other meaning of scat.
No, but we do see some of that later.
It seems as though Vermithor's test is basically like, I will intimidate the humans, and if they growl back, I might let them live, and if they run away, I will eat them. That seems to be his process.
I don't think we can read too deeply into dragon behavior.
Well, he definitely seems to respect bravery.
Yeah.
So do you think Silver Dennis here didn't have enough Targaryen blood? Because, like, I mean, that's one of the big questions is, like, why do dragons...
Maybe Vermithor just doesn't like his face. You know, it could be as simple as that.
Yeah. It could be kind of random. Maybe Vermithor has a kind of a psychic link with humans and, like, reads what's in their mind and their heart. Or maybe he's just hungry.
Yeah, or he could just be like, all right, I just want to have some fun, so I'll eat the first guy and we'll take it from there.
I love the expressions Rhaenyra has as she's watching these people be burned alive.
She's intensely studying the flame.
Yeah, it's kind of like when she was watching Stefan, she was like 100% horrified. She was like, oh no, I've made a terrible mistake. Stefan's burning. But now she's like, ooh, this is getting interesting. You know, like she doesn't seem as sympathetic. There is some horror.
Gerardis, the popcorn.
But yeah, it's a bit scary how like passively Rhaenyra watches.
What's she gonna do?
Remember when Daenerys watched her brother Viserys get burned in Game of Thrones?
I forgot that moment where my favorite character dies.
Yes, I'm sure you have nightmares every other night of the death of Viserys. But
Viserys III, the one true king of Westeros.
It's a really similar vibe, isn't it? It's a bit scary how like kind of okay with it Rhaenyra is. Like she has a moment of horror, and then she has a moment of this is going to pay off.
Yeah, this is all for good.
Yeah, like look, like she has the horror, She has the horror and then she sort of processes it and then she's like, yeah, no, this is okay.
I made the right choice. All these people dying, that was good.
This feels like it might be the slow arc towards an absolute supervillain monster, doesn't it?
Hell yeah, I'm so happy.
Be.
That moment where Ulf bumps into a torch, mistakes it for a dragonfire, and says, oh, fuck. That's the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen.
Oh, I didn't realize that was what's happening, but you're right. He's like, oh, fire! Oh, it's just a torch. Oh, I'm a silly goose.
Do you think he's drunk or is he just like this?
I hope he's like this all the time.
Yeah. He's so fun. And then he just like stumbles into another dragon. Like imagine being the one. Of course Ulf would be the one guy simultaneously unlucky and lucky enough to stumble into the other dragon's lair.
He's Mr. Bean. He's Mr. Magooing his way through dragon claiming. It's fantastic. And yeah, I love that Vermithor looks like he's never had this much fun before. Like he's spent the last like 40 years just sitting in this cave and now it's like, oh, I get to chase my snacks.
Yippee!
It's like a cat playing with his food.
Absolutely.
You know? Like a cat that brings in a rat.
I would be remiss to not mention that we're currently looking at a 3-minute long shot that is stitching. It's like there are hidden cuts in it, of course.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic. It's like beautiful cinema following Hugh through this disastrous event.
It's beautiful cinema that we are streaming via the internet for streaming television. Like what a world.
And then going onto the internet to complain about it.
Yeah, it does feel funny that, you know, all these talented people spend millions of dollars creating this art and then we're like, but he wasn't the heir to the Dun fort.
Actually, Maegor didn't have any.
It's like, all right, settle the fuck down.
I mean, that's exactly what we did for Game of Thrones, though.
Yeah, but that was a piece of shit.
Yeah, our nitpicking was justified there. Those weren't nits. Those were like massive ticks.
Yeah, no, those were like rabies-infected dogs like rampaging across the landscape. They were not as easy
those
to
were
ignore
not
as
nits.
Yeah. Do you think this outfit looks a bit Robert Baratheon?
Yes. And he's a blacksmith and he's called Hugh Hammer.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of Robert going on there. I made that tweet saying welcome back King Jaehaerys because he looks a bit like Jaehaerys in the first scene, but he looks a lot more like Malk Addy's Robert Baratheon.
And you know how like Robert's whole thing was that I fought the war for Lyanna, but now Lyanna's dead and so I've got nothing to live for.
Yeah.
That's like Hugh.
He's like nothing to live for.
He worked to save his daughter's life, but his daughter died and now it's like, well, what does he live for now?
Aegon betrayed him, so he's now over here fighting for Rhaenyra, or is he just fighting for himself? He's finding a new purpose in life, as Rhaena is finding a new purpose in life, as Adam had one stumble onto him. It's great.
Well, Rhaenyra said something in her speech about like you will be changed and you will lose things and maybe you have nothing to lose. Like these are all people who were giving up who they were before. Like, you know, Hugh had the option of going with his wife to Tumbleton. He had that option and he chose, no, I will become a different being one way or the other. I'm going to be a dragon lord or a pile of ash. There is no in between. And it's like, I just love that energy as a metaphor for the lure of ambition, of dreams, of hope, and of, you know, all the wonders and terror that can lead to. It's gorgeous. And this is such a great visual image of a man looking down the guts of power, wondering if he's man enough to seize it. It's fantastic.
Looking God in the mouth and saying, eat me or make me a king. Like, it's your choice.
Yeah.
I don't care what you do to me.
Yeah, I'm just as fearsome as you are.
And it's perhaps my favorite moment in the whole show.
I love it because it's fantasy. Like, I mean, like I've said it before, but like when fucking Jon Snow got on Rhaegal, it was like a Disneyland ride. It was nothing.
Unbelievable skies.
Whereas this is like, oh no, we are grappling with godlike powers that are transformative. Like it is everything that Jon riding Rhaegal was not.
Even when Daenerys mounts Drogon for the first time, it's not given anywhere near the reverence I think it deserves.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it would have been just as triumphant if she got on a fucking train or a bus or a jet ski. Like it was just a means of transportation.
This is the Daznak Express, stopping all stations to, oh God, we're stopping at the Dothraki Sea.
Up Periscope.
Fire the nuclear weapons.
We need to do like an edit of Stephen Toast in Westeros. He's a bit like Ulf, I guess.
Yes!
So Rhaenyra looks at the charred corpses of dozens of innocent people who she sent to their deaths. And she's like, yeah, this was worth it. And she's got tears in her eyes. Like, she feels the cost. But she's like, yeah, it's worth it.
Also, when there's fire, your eyes well up with tears anyway because your eyes are too hot and you need to lubricate them to protect them. But probably more emotions than lubrication, I think, is what's going on there thematically.
I think it's all about the lubrication. So I love that while Hugh has a dramatic confrontation with God, Ulf stumbles his
into
way.
a pile of crap.
I mean, I think that's dragon.
It is.
Well, it might be crap and eggs. Like, it all comes out of the same cloaca, right?
It's dragon goop.
Yeah.
That's all we need to know about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as we know, that's the only excretion that dragons have. I mean, I don't know. Like, maybe
they excrete fire.
They might not poop, but maybe like Kim Jong-il, they just burn it internally.
Oh, yeah, because they're superior like Targaryens are. Yeah. We've never seen a Targaryen take a poop.
Oh, look at Silverwing.
I love how she's just sort of nestled in the back and you can only sort of make her out in that first long shot.
Yeah, she's like camouflage.
Yeah.
Like, she's not trying to assert her presence like Vermithor does. She's just chilling. I mean, I wonder how long she's been there. Like, maybe, like, for all we know.
Has she been hibernating for 30 years?
Yeah. Like, maybe that's why she accepts Ulf, is that most of her brain is still asleep. She thinks that's Alysanne. Oh, your hair's a bit grey, Alysanne.
Have you patched things up with Jaehaerys yet?
I love the triangle head.
Yeah, so distinct.
The color is not silver, though. It's more grey. That's lame.
Could be the lighting of the scene, but yeah. She gives Ulf a couple of boops and says, fine.
You'll do. So I've seen some people point out that it's Vermithor who knocks Ulf off the platform with his face. And so, like, Vermithor touches Ulf, so maybe Silverwing smells Ulf.
Right.
It's also interesting that both Hugh and Ulf fall into puddles of what is either water or dragon piss before being accepted by their riders. Maybe they like damp humans.
Maybe it's like a baptism.
And yeah, it's
because
interesting.
They are gods, right?
Yeah. It's a religious ceremonial moment, isn't it, to be baptized? And yeah, Silverwing does indeed have a saddle on. Which, how long has she been wearing that saddle?
Well, so I think, does the saddle grow with the dragon?
Yeah, like what?
So the idea must be like, okay, this is a dragon. We're getting the saddle on once and that's it. We're not taking it off ever.
Yeah, imagine trying to get a saddle onto a dragon for the first time. That would not be easy. It's like putting mittens on a cat, you know? Have you ever put gumboots on a cat?
No.
I don't advise it.
But it's so cute.
It is very cute. So yeah, I think it's a fun contrast between Ulf and Hugh, and Ulf is just happy to be alive.
He's laughing because, I mean, this is objectively hilarious.
This is objectively hilarious.
What is that face he's making?
What is that face he's making? Tom Bennett.
Yeah, he's killing it too.
Look how many faces he pulls. What's going on? That's hilarious.
Like, I was all on board the Kieran Bew train earlier, but yeah, Tom Bennett also killed it in this scene.
I like seeing him have fun because this is often quite a dour show, you know? I enjoy the a little bit of humanity. So yeah, Vermithor and Silverwing flying again with their new riders.
Let's go. Then we cut to the boring council scene. I love it.
Yeah. What would you rather be doing, Aemond? So, Lord Ormond Hightower
makes slow progress
with the
it's just so
Hightower
funny that
army.
We cut from like this chaotic claiming of two like the most bombastic scene we've ever had, and it's like Lord Ormond Hightower is being harassed on both sides,
and then that dragon chaos bursts into King's Landing and interrupts their nonsense.
It's so fun.
The two Allens are harassing the Hightowers.
Yeah.
For Lyman. I hope that's their battle cry. For Lyman! And yeah, we get the exciting news that Alicent's son Daeron is now riding and flying on Tessarion.
The preview has Tessarion in it. The
Pretty
preview
exciting.
has Tessarion in it.
And he's blue. Thank the gods he's actually blue.
She's blue.
She's
the blue queen.
Yes.
Excuse me very much.
Yes.
Which means we probably won't get an introductory scene with Daeron at Old Town, but maybe. But it'd be nice, but okay.
Yeah, I'm hoping for some Daeron. That would be cool. And so they hear there's a dragon rudely interrupting their conversation.
We were having a meeting.
I love all these like kooky close-ups of Ewan's face.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're paying for a face that like unique. You're going to use it.
He's got a dimple in his nose. I haven't noticed that before.
He's really cute.
He's got an amazing face. He's got an amazing chin, and the scar and the eye patch just turn it up to 11.
This show is so much more fantastical than Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Which is so funny because Game of Thrones had the motherfucking long night.
Yeah.
And it had, the North and the Night's Watch beyond the wall. And it had the Stone Men. They went to Valyria. They went to all the places that should be magical, but they gave us nothing.
There was an entire season where a main character was in a cave under a weirwood hill with a green seer.
Oh my God.
And like a blue Darth Maul showed up and that was it.
They took us inside the House of Black and White.
Compare that to all the shit that's happened to Daemon in Harrenhal, and then these scenes with the dragons on Dragonstone, and it's like these are different franchises now, just in terms of how seriously they take their magical setting.
They are bringing the magic back into Westeros, and they're doing it in the least magical of the books.
God, then thank you for bringing up the House of Black and White, because that's the most boring setting in Game of Thrones. The most boring scenes happen there.
Yeah. Whereas in the books, there's like trippy visions, there's mysterious magic, there's Arya impersonating all these different people, there's lore about the doom of Valyria, there's like death philosophy, there's a play within the novel, there's all this insane stuff that happens.
In Game of Thrones, Arya sweeps.
Yeah.
She sweeps to the floor.
She sweeps.
Ulf is having the time of his life.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah! I've seen people compare this to the shot in Doctor Strangelove where the guy rides the nuke at the end.
Oh, yeah.
And
that must have been going through their heads, yeah.
With dragons being nukes. Is this who we want in charge of our nukes? Is this the guy?
I mean, is it any worse than anyone else being in charge of a nuke personally?
I mean, I don't think that Ulf wants to do a war crime.
We'll find out.
And I don't think that Silverwing wants to do a war crime.
Power changes people, or it reveals, as many say.
But Vhagar is just down the road. So do you think that Silverwing decided to take Ulf to King's Landing, or do you think that Ulf directed Silverwing to come to King's Landing as part of a plan with Rhaenyra to lure Aemond and Vhagar?
I would much prefer it if this had no coordination with Rhaenyra, and it's either Ulf going off on his own, just like take his new Lambo out for a joyride to show off to his friends, or Silverwing wanting to see home again. Although Dragonstone has been her home for a very, very long time. Like, I think it's one of them, and it had nothing to do with Rhaenyra.
Yeah, my preferred interpretation is that it has nothing to do with Rhaenyra, because this does not look like a man who's executing a plan. This looks like a man who's having fun. So Aemond is keen for a fight.
He's like, jump onto a horse is epic.
It is fucking
like,
epic.
If we hadn't just seen two dragons that claimed in the best scene of all time, like that would be the standout moment of the episode, is Ewan Mitchell throwing himself onto a horse.
I love the physicality of it, and it contrasts so much with Aemond's stillness in every other scene. Like, the actor Ewan Mitchell in interviews talks about how Aemond is like a Terminator-like figure, or like Jason, or like, some of those like classic horror movie guys who are always like walking pace or standing still, because that is what's most scary. But see, like, when the Terminator breaks into a run in like Terminator 2 and it's like the cop Terminator and all that shit, it's like, oh God, like when these beasts, when these like inhuman warriors start moving, it's at like Mach 3, and they are on the mission, they are hunting down their target, terminate, exterminate, like that is the mode that Aemond is in.
When the huntsman, the spider that's been on the wall for 3 hours and hasn't moved, suddenly just launches into action and it's on the other side of the room.
Yeah. And the way that we saw like Aemond's like lanky ass body with Sylvie, like it's such a sinuous body that looks like a cheetah or a leopard that is just gonna sprint at the goddamn antelope.
Like a panther and an electric eagle.
And right now Ulf is that goddamn antelope, and I don't think he knows it. Ulf has no idea the level of like personal and geopolitical danger that he is in right now. But I guess Silverwing can outpace Vhagar, so by the time Aemond has his shit together, Ulf manages to return to Dragonstone before Vhagar. I wonder what the relationship between Vhagar and Silverwing is like. Because, I mean, I don't think...
Well, Vhagar's rider before Lena was Balon.
Yeah.
And Balon was Alisane's son, the rider of Silverwing.
And he was the heir to the throne for a hot minute.
Yeah.
And Vhagar went to the Murish bloodbath when Aemon got kicked. No. Caraxes went to... I always get fucking confused between Aemon on Caraxes and Balon on Vhagar. Because it was Aemon who died on Tarth in the Murish bloodbath, and it was Balon who died of a burst belly because Otto Hightower poisoned him.
The peas were poisoned.
That was funny.
Here are your peas, your prince.
I love that they added Viserys accusing Otto because like it adds this whole history to that previous generation, which is what Ice and Fire does all the time.
I love it when characters talk about Alyssa and Balon.
Yeah, because as it turns out, like your parents have parents too. And they had their own dramas and they had their own grievances.
Your relationship to your parents is akin to their relationship with their parents. And guess what? Your grandparents had parents.
It all goes back and back, especially when they're looking for blood. They're looking for Targaryen blood and they're justifying on succession and inheritance.
Yeah, and when you tell someone your great-grandmother was a Targaryen princess and they're like, that's so far back, I hadn't even considered that my grandparents were people.
Yeah, right? Look at Aemon's eye widening. When he goes, oh, there's like fucking 6 dragons on that island.
Someone should have told me that.
Do you think he's going to turn around and just eat Larys for not like informing him about this shit?
Vhagar's keen.
Yeah, so Aemon tries to tell Vhagar to flee and retreat to King's Landing because Aemon is worried that he can't fight like 6 dragons at once. But Vhagar wants to go for it anyway.
I love that we get like physical confirmation that Rhaenyra's like this ploy is successful in deterring Aemond. Like that's what she needed to do, and that's what she's done here.
Yeah, it gives...
I think we really did need a concrete thing of like, yes, this is correct. Aemond can't defeat all of these dragons now.
Yeah, all of the like power scaling is very unclear, I think, to most viewers most of the time. And the idea that they're showing us that Aemon's biggest dragon is afraid of Rhaenyra and these new dragons, that's a really important message. I would have liked it if Jace on Vermax and Baelor on Moondancer were flying in the background as well. I was
wondering where Seasmoke was. I think Seasmoke should be on that tower on the left there.
Yeah, why did they not include all the dragons? I'm sure the answer is CGI, but I mean, like, Silverwing is real blurry and out of focus in the background. Why not have Moondancer and Vermax blurry there as well? Because, like, people need to see how many dragons there are. People don't know how many dragons there are unless they look at
6 mounted dragons on Dragonstone at the moment, right now, everyone.
Yeah.
There are 6. Cyrax, Vermithor, Silverwing, Seasmoke, Moondancer, and Vermax. And Caraxes is over with Daemon and Harrenhal.
Like, I know that they don't want to info dump. I know that they don't want to do exposition, but, like... They have the map in the Green Council. That would be the perfect visual aid for Aemon to go, we have 4 dragons and they have 8 dragons. He's exactly the kind of guy who would do that.
Yeah. Or Daemon at Harrenhal. Someone needs to give that guy a map as well.
Yeah.
I've heard that my wife has done dragon maths and now we have more. And so he lays it out to the audience, some shit like that.
You know what?
Or the painted table in the Dragonstone.
The other thing that they haven't done is that they haven't pointed to a map and said, hey, look, Dragonstone is right next to Driftmark. And they're both pretty close to King's Landing on the coast.
Is over there.
And the Vale is there. And Harrenhal's
is
there.
Just across the...
Like, that would take 5 seconds. You could easily fit that into a council scene on the painted table, but they never have done it. So most viewers, if you're a viewer who only watches the show and doesn't Google things,
you don't have a very good...
know. Yeah. And it's kind of important because, like, as we saw, you can get from King's Landing to Dragonstone in like 5 minutes. And that's important information.
And that's why Game of Thrones really hit the nail on the head when they made their opening sequence a map.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I love the tapestry.
Yeah.
I think its symbolism is fantastic and it adds to the show. And geography is like less pertinent to House of the Dragon than it was to Game of Thrones, but it's still really important.
It's increasingly important with all these armies marching around.
Yeah, so I think we do need a scene or a part of a scene where a map is a strong visual component and viewers finally get, you know, the casual viewers who aren't on YouTube listening to us for how many hours have we been going today?
Not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I love the tapestry. I feel like they could have just taken the opportunity just a couple of times a season to point at the painted table or point at the new map board in the Green Council and just say, hey, here's Dragonstone, here's Driftmark, here's King's Landing, here's Harrenhal. That'd be helpful.
And, you know, there are children in this show. There are like children involved in the war who like might not be aware of it. Like they could be the viewer stand-in to have that explained to them.
Well, Aegon is someone who is...
Does Aegon know where Harrenhal is?
Yeah, I would love a scene where Aegon's like, oh, well, why don't they just take a boat to Maidenpool? And then Aemon can slap his head and say, Maidenpool is inland. We're on the coast. It's here. And he points at the map. Like, wouldn't that be good?
You'd have to go around Cracklaw Point, you idiot. Or maybe a scene where before little Jaehaerys dies, Aegon's like, see, this is where we're talking about, little kid.
Oh God, wouldn't that be heartbreaking?
Yeah.
Because he'd, enjoying teaching his child.
Your disgusting aunt is on Dragonstone, which is here.
Yeah, no, you're so right. And also the concept of a Lord Paramount is something that I'm sure is baffling to a lot of viewers. And they sort of try to mention it with Oscar, but
Yeah, so George has the Wardens of the North, South, East, and West, which cover the bases of the North, the Reach, the Westerlands, and the Vale. But then there are the other regions, the Stormlands, the Iron Islands, and the Riverlands, which don't have a Warden title to be given to them. So they're called the Lords Paramount of those regions, right? Because they are paramount above the other lords of the region, but they're not paramount because they're actually, subservient to the king. But anyway... it sort of all goes back to George's decision to use Lord as the only feudal title aside from King.
Yeah.
Because, in actual feudalism, there were a bunch of different ranks in the peerage. There were barons and marquises and dukes and counts and lords and earls and so on.
I think the Warden thing is weird because, like in book 1, the Warden of the West seems to be this important title. But then they don't ever really talk about it again.
Yeah, it appears to be like a military command as opposed to like an actual land title.
I feel like George
Robert threatens to give it to Jaime over Robert Arryn.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But then I think he drops it and he decides that he just likes the Lord Paramount thing better.
Yeah.
So it's all a bit...
It's a bit of a mess.
It is a bit of a mess.
But anyway, this shot's
great. And I think this is Rhaenyra. I mean, this is Daenerys at the end of season 1 when she's like, I've got the dragons. I'm the Dragon Queen. I'm the prophesied one. Because, like, what does Daenerys do after she has her climactic dragon thing at the end of season 1? She goes on a vision quest to meet the 3 wise men in the desert with the special star of Bethlehem above. She does the Jesus thing. And that's where Rhaenyra is on the trajectory.
She will attempt to walk on water in the next episode. She will turn a bag of fish into 5,000 heads of fishes to remind us of Rhea Royce.
5,000 Rhea Royces. Yeah, look, I really want to see some change in Rhaenyra where she's more assertive.
I mean, in the preview, we see her wearing the crown at the council table.
Yeah,
or at a dinner table, and it's like, that's weird. We have not seen Rhaenyra wearing the crown very much at all. So for her to be wearing it at just like dinner with the dragon seeds is really interesting.
And it's so great that after Daemon has decided that maybe I don't want the crown, Rhaenyra has decided, I do want the crown. It is mine. Jesus. Yeah.
So how's Daemon going to react to that shit? Because they've both moved in opposite directions. They have become one another in the way that like was discussed in the previous episode.
Yeah.
How are they going to react to each other's change? Because Rhaenyra is sitting here thinking that Daemon's going to love this for me.
Yeah.
Right? And then she's going to get there and he's like, what have you become?
Yeah, maybe in her brain, this is almost like embracing Daemon or being Daemon.
Yeah.
It's like,
and that might disgust him.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be so funny if Daemon came back home and he's like, oh, this is too hardcore for me, babe.
Oh.
Like, you're being it's a bit aggressive for me. I can't handle it.
She's like, I'm just doing what you were doing.
I mean, Daemon, that kind of has always been that dynamic. Like, remember on Dragonstone when he had his tantrum and Rhaenyra just faced him up and said, are you going to kill me or are you going to run away, bitch? And he runs away. And it's like, oh, Rhaenyra always was too much for Daemon to handle. I mean,
their first romantic interaction in episode 4 when she was too into it at that brothel and he was like, I am leaving.
Yeah.
I can't deal with how powerful you are.
Yeah, Rhaenyra has always been the true fire compared to Daemon. And yeah, I don't think he can handle her. It's going to be so interesting if they reunite and to see what happens with them.
Yeah, like he left Dragonstone for Harrenhal because he thought that she couldn't handle him, but now is he going to realize that he can't handle her? That is so fun.
And of course, it's like, what the hell is Jace going to feel? Like, I mean, imagine Jace interacting with fucking Ulf. Imagine Jace interacting with Hugh. Imagine Jace interacting with Adam. Like, all of those are going to be fascinating.
What if Jace and Damon form a little alliance because they both disagree with what Rhaenyra's done here?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like it seems like most of the people at Dragonstone object to Rhaenyra at this point.
Barty, Celtigar.
Yeah, like all of these men on the council table, Rhaenyra's own family.
Corlys didn't seem that upset.
Yeah, I mean
his son now has a dragon.
Yeah, he's one of the winners in this situation, potentially.
Yeah, it's Mysaria, Rhaenyra, and Corlys, and everyone else is like pretty upset.
And Jace,
the Dragon Keepers.
Jace said to Rhaenyra, whose idea was this? Mysaria's? Like, there is this prejudice against this like foreign female person in the books and in the show, I think. So like people could really demonize Rhaenyra and demonize Mysaria. But at the end of the day, she's got the nukes. But the question is like, to what extent can she control and command the loyalty of her new dragon riders? Yeah. So that's an important question.
She doesn't know Ulf or Hugh. She didn't know any of the 4 people. How many people? It was like 45 people in that room.
So together they are the greatest power in this world. And theoretically, they could fly to King's Landing tomorrow and win the war. But, you know, there's going to be all these ethical questions about, can we do that without burning innocent people?
Hey, Hugh, you just became the most powerful person that we know. Are you cool with flying to King's Landing and dying to Vhagar so that I can win this war? Me, the person you don't know who you didn't believe in until yesterday.
Yeah. And also like killing the king who you had just been supplicant to at the beginning of this season. Like there's, and also like, you know, your wife Kat is still in the city as far as we know. Fuck. Like, and also all of your drinking buddies are still
Clay
in the city.
And Mudra are there. You're gonna kill them.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, because like, you know, we saw at Rook's Rest. Like I think it's actually a really smart thing they did at Rook's Rest, showing us that when Meleys dies and hits the ground, she explodes and kills everyone beneath her. Yeah. Because that raises the obvious concern that if dragons fight above King's Landing
or above any other city,
if a dragon dies, it explodes and thousands of innocent people will die. So like in Game of Thrones, they didn't have that idea. So it never really made sense when they were like, we couldn't possibly attack King's Landing because then somehow thousands of people would inevitably die. Whereas here they actually are setting some groundwork for that to maybe actually be the case. So yeah, I think this is one of the best episodes this season. I think my favorite episode is still episode 2.
Oh, you and your people arguing in rooms.
I love people arguing in rooms. And I mean, Rook's Rest was also good.
I think this is better than Rook's Rest.
Yeah, I also think it's better than Rook's Rest. So yeah, it's probably like episode 2, episode 7, episode 4 for me at this point.
I will refrain from making a judgment like that until the season's done, and maybe even a couple of years after the season's done. maybe I'll never do it.
I'm not even going to contemplate what either of our release schedules are for the foreseeable future.
For 10,000 years, I have slumbered.
Well, this has been a delight.
It has. I enjoy doing this with you. I enjoy sharing this with all the people as well. Isn't it fun?
I'm having a great time. Thank you for Dragon Talking with me.
Thanks for joining me as my special guest this week.
Thank you for joining me as my special guest.
Next week, my special guest will be Alt Schwift X. So that's exciting, and tune in for that one.
Well, my special guest will be Glidus. So
no, that's sort of boring.
Is it? I think it's great. So this was another episode of Dragon Time. You can listen to this as a audio feed on a podcast app of your choice if you want to use the Nebula.
You weren't looking at it anyway, were you? You were just listening anyway.
Glidus has been busting his ass editing video for these 3-hour-long videos, which no one should have to do that, but Glidus has been doing that. And we would love to hear an informal survey of, have you been watching and enjoying the visual component of these videos? Have you been looking at the screen, or have you been having it on a second monitor or listening on the audio while you're doing your dishes? We would love to know, how are you listening to Dragon Time? Listener survey right at the very end of the series.
But yeah, you can listen to it on the Nebula podcast RSS feed, however that works. That's not my domain. I only work here, man.
If you just search Alt Schwift X on Nebula, It's called the Game of Thrones Abridged podcast currently, which is confusing. I don't know what we do about that, but that is the feed that it's on currently.
All of our
Nebula.
formats are so confusing.
Yeah, I am.
We can't get our heads around it. So if you can't, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Can you do an impression of Vermithor's dragon sounds for me right now?
Fucking hell. All right.
All right, got to end it on your best joke.
Yeah, all right. It's